Whether the team is performing clean or unsightly, we'll cover it all here on Washington Football Nightly. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, had a chance to take a look at the defensive film, and it's exactly what you thought it was. A dominant performance by this defense. Now, a couple caveats. First, Nick Mullins, awesome. Okay, so glad he was playing quarterback on Sunday for the San Francisco 49ers. Okay, he stinks. Now, I think he's a competent NFL backup, but in terms of a starter in this league, nah. So we took advantage of a guy that was in the game because of injuries and has shown the propensity to turn it over, make some questionable decisions, try to extend plays a little bit longer than maybe he should, a little loosey-goosey with the football, i.e. the fumble that Daron Payne forced, that Chase Young scooped up and scored a touchdown on. You get where I'm going with this. The interception he threw, the pick six to Cameron Curl, he was a lifesaver, okay? Long story short. The injuries were massive that the 49ers had coming into the game. Now, I'm not talking about the Nick Bozas and all the guys that they lost earlier, Solomon Thomas and all those guys. They've been out, okay? Not talking about those guys. I'm talking about no George Kittle. I'm talking about, no Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm talking about Deebo Samuel going down on the first snap of the game. I'm talking about Raheem Mostert injuring himself somewhere in the third quarter and not being able to return. I'm talking about the significant injuries that really handicapped that 49ers offense. That being said, forget about all of that. Take all of that stuff, move it aside. It is what it is. Injuries happen in this league. You have to adjust. You have to adapt. Washington's defense was dominant, okay? Downright nasty in this game. And for years, we've watched this football team struggle against third-string quarterbacks and second-string quarterbacks and third-string tackles and second-string guards and second-string centers. And this guy that you never heard of at receiver position. You've seen this team make stars out of guys that shouldn't even be in the league or guys that should be on somebody's practice squad. We've done that over the years. So this year, when somebody comes and complains about, we got our third string tackle, I don't give a shit. I'm excited to see us destroy somebody's third string tackle because for years we didn't. I'm excited that you've got your second string left guard in the game and he's getting his ass torn up because for years we didn't destroy that second string left guard. I'm excited that finally we see a team's third string or second string quarterback and we're licking our chops. That guy doesn't stand a chance. He doesn't know what kind of trouble that he's about to get into. I love it. Every time this team has seen the inkling of a very, very mashed unit, all right, whether it's a crack on the offensive line or it's just a little bit of a problem at the quarterback position or the receiver position or tight end. When this team has seen a crease, they've hit it. If the door is slightly open, they've kicked it in. This is something that I've been waiting on for years. Years. To dominate teams that are there to be dominated. I feel like there's been one team that has gotten away from us this year that I felt like even if we didn't dominate them, we needed to beat them. And they got away from us twice, and that's the Giants. That's the one that got away from us this year. Like, of all the teams that we saw and I felt like we could take advantage of, we didn't take advantage of the Giants, not once but twice. When you got Austin Mack making plays on you, that's the kind of shit that used to happen to us in the past. Never heard of Austin Mack until now. Well, he's out there making catches and making plays against you. You know, you're looking at their backup tight end because Evan Ingram is non-existent. Their backup tight end is Hayden Smith, or Caden Smith is getting in your ass. You're like, Caden Smith? Alfred Morris? Really? Wayne Gallman? Really? Those are the kinds of guys that hurt us in the past. Matthew Purt at tackle? Oh, he's in the game? We're supposed to kill him? No. This year, you got backup offensive linemen. You got a second string quarterback. You got some issues up front. You got some of your skill guys out. Oh, you're going to pay for that. And the 49ers paid for it dearly. I saw a defense on film that's gaining confidence. That was probably the most refreshing thing that I took from the film, is that I see a defense that continues to gain confidence. There were stretches in that game where you could tell they said, these guys ain't got nothing for us. I've never seen two defensive ends be more aware of their surroundings and what's going on than Montez Sweat and Chase Young. Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen are starting to get pressure. They're starting to make plays. I thought we started out really rough against the run. You know, there was a little stretch there early in the game. And even on that third quarter drive when we had the hiccup with Montez Sweat having the roughing the passer penalty, I thought we had a little issue on that drive stopping the run a bit. But for the most part, you know, there were some early struggles, a little struggle, but for the most part, we did what we needed to do against the run. I told you I didn't think we were going to shut them down, and we didn't shut them down. But I said we needed to slow them down, and I thought we did slow them down. And that's all I was looking for. So, really proud of the defensive unit. Really proud of the effort that they put forth. And we needed every single one of those guys that stepped onto that field to step up and play the way that they did. And again, you see it's a collective unit that believes. They believe in the guy next to them. They believe in the guy behind them. They believe in the guys in the back end. They believe in the guys in the front end. They believe about the guys in the middle. It's a collective effort now. Starting to come together. And it couldn't have come at a better time. We needed them against Pittsburgh. They stepped up. We needed them here against San Francisco. They stepped up. We're going to need them even more so against Seattle. We'll see if they've got another one in them. But that was an impressive performance by the defense, to say the least. I'm not telling you anything that you didn't already know, nothing that your eyes didn't see, but there were some standouts in the game. But you already know that. These guys, they played exceptionally well as a unit. They're starting to trust each other. They're starting to trust the scheme. There were a couple of blitzes that I didn't love from Jack, where I'm like, dude, really? I called one of them a Pluto blitz. Like, dude, you're coming from 25 yards away from the line of scrimmage. What do you think is going to happen, man? Seriously, what are we doing right now? I don't like that. But all in all, I thought that we rattled the cage of a quarterback that his cage could be rattled. And we made plays that were there to be made. And some special, some not so much. But nonetheless, there are plays to be made. And sometimes there's something to be said about making the play that's there in front of you. Like the final defensive snap, really, of the game. Not the one where they started trying to throw laterals around. But I'm talking about that 4th and 12. There's something to be said about, hey, play the sticks. They throw it underneath. You rally up and you tackle. It's not hard. We did that. How many times have you seen us drop 2-3 yards beyond the sticks? They catch it a yard in front of the sticks or at the sticks and get the first down. It's a different defense right now. Attention to detail. They're dialed in. They're locked in. They can see it. Got to line up here on my heels on the sticks. Nothing getting past me. Simple play. Make it. They made it. Game over. Montez Sweat drawing the holding penalty that put them in a position that they were, that was a big gain to Kendrick Bourne. Down inside the Washington 25-yard line, negated because Montez Sweat ran right by Mike McGlinchey and forced him to hold, or else he was going to force a fumble. A sack force fumble. And then on 4th and 12, Montez Sweat gets in his chest, obliterates him, dump trucks him, and takes him on skates back into the quarterback. That's what you call big-time players making big-time plays when the game is at its apex, when everything is on the line. I need my best players to shine. And that's what Montez Sweat did. It's big-time stuff. Let's get to in other news. And I got some comments here, some super chats, a couple super chats that I want to get to quickly. Got one here from Justin Moody. Deshaun Watson is the answer. I'm assuming you're talking about the question that I asked, but he wasn't one of the choices. So there's a reason he wasn't a choice. We'll talk about that here in a second. I devised that poll question in a way that it takes away all the other answers, and I'll explain myself here in a second. The Phillies Ace 34. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. The Phillies Ace 34 writes, Yo, Louie, what's good? Would you ever consider becoming an Eagles fan? Also, would Washington consider Wentz if Hurts established himself? Cowboys stink. 1. No. I would never consider becoming anything other than what I already am. I'm a Washington football team fan through and through. Nothing else, nothing else run through these veins but burgundy and gold blood. And so, no, that's not up for debate. As far as Wentz is concerned, I don't think he's the answer here. I think the perfect landing destination for Carson Wentz would be Indianapolis. Why? Because the guy that made him a star in this league is in Indianapolis as their head coach. And, oh, by the way, they'll need a quarterback next year. And, oh, by the way, they'll have damn near $40 million worth of cap space next year to go out and get Carson Wentz and fit him under that cap if they so choose. If Frank Wright thinks, hey, this is just a matter of a lack of confidence, we know Carson can do it, I saw it firsthand, I know what this guy's capable of, I'll go rescue him. The perfect landing destination for him is Indianapolis. I don't even think it's up for debate. And if the Colts are down, I think that'd be a great spot for him. But I don't think Washington is a landing destination for Carson Wentz. And after seeing what we've seen here, we're good. We're going to pass on Wentz. And yes, the Cowboys, they do stink. Got another super chat here from my man, John Perez. Thank you for the super chat, JP. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, I want to see everybody on the D-line in the Pro Bowl. Probably won't happen. You may get 3 out of the 4. More likely than not, you'll get 2. And if I had to guess, I'd say it'd be the 2 bookends, Young and Sweat. But if it's only 1, it'll probably be Sweat. But, a lot of people don't actually know what's going on in Washington. So it could be neither of those guys. Because most people go off of stats. And neither one of those guys, have 12 and a half sacks and, is approaching, some kind of ridiculous number. So when people start looking at stats and they see somebody with 11 and a half sacks, oh, that guy deserves to go to the Pro Bowl. not knowing if that guy has an impact on the game or not, if those sacks came all like 3 of them in one game against a third string tackle and really didn't do anything for much of the season. You know, if you got 11 sacks and 9 of those sacks came in 3 games, you really weren't impactful the entire year. You know, again, context is everything. Could have been a disruptor and was almost there in a lot of games and just didn't get there, then that's different. But you never really know. I don't think that you're going to see. It wouldn't shock me if none of our guys made it to the Pro Bowl, to be honest with you. But we'll see. We do have a notable name, Chase Young. You know, and that moves the needle in this league. Because the Pro Bowl a lot of times is a popularity contest. So his name resonates. You know, maybe we'll get somebody in there. Maybe not. Also, got another super chat from my man JP. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, JP. Greatly appreciate you. My man John Perez writes, would you be interested in drafting Alabama quarterback Mac Jones? He's slowly growing on me lately. There's a lot of questions surrounding Mac Jones, as it is with most Alabama quarterbacks. Same thing with Ohio State quarterbacks. You know, it's a different skill set with Mac Jones, obviously. To me, here's a guy that played with a ton of talent around him. You know, is he good, or is it just that the talent around him is exceptional and he's just a caretaker of that? That's the question. You know, can he stand alone by himself? And look, I'm not saying that he needs to go out and be able to put a team on his back, but you're never going to play with more talent and have a bigger talent disparity week in, week out than he is having right now and has had in the past at Alabama on a weekly basis. You know, you're not going to come in the NFL and have your number one wide receiver be 20 times better than the guy that's lining up across him, and the guy next to him is a future first-round pick, and the guy next to him is a future first-round pick, and the guy in the backfield is no worse than a second-round pick, and all the offensive linemen, 3 or 4 of them are going to go off the board in the first or second round. Like, there's so much talent on that offense that you say, is it you, or are you a product of the talent around you? Again, I've got to watch the tape. I know one thing's for sure, much like Tua, he throws a beautiful deep ball. That isn't up for debate. But still, I need to see in some situations where games were tight, how he responded, you know, when they were down, how did he bring them back, things of that nature. I haven't watched a lot of Alabama football this year, you know, so I can't really say. Got to watch more Mac Jones. But I told you this quarterback draft class is going to be loaded. And you can be at 23 and still get you a quarterback if that guy tickles your fancy. You know, but you got Trevor Lawrence. You got Justin Fields. You got Trey Lance. You got Zach Wilson. You got Mac Jones. You got Kyle Trask. What is that, 5 or 6 guys right there? 6 or 7? Something like that. There are a bunch of quarterbacks. So, I don't know. We'll see. Got another super chat here. This one is from Diesel the Hog. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Diesel the Hog writes, what does Lamar Miller have left in the tank? We signed him. How does he fit here? Lamar Miller is 1 foot out the door in this league, essentially. You know, when you get to this point of your career as a running back and you've been around the block a few times and teams look at you and say, hey, that dog don't bark anymore. You find yourself on the practice squad, which means you're literally, and this is obviously a unique season, but you find yourself essentially with 1 foot out the door. And we know the running back position is no country for old men. So once you're deemed old and you don't have a lot left to give, because as I just mentioned, the running back position is a young man's position. You can go find you an undrafted guy that can come in and give you something. You know, we see it all the time. So Lamar Miller is a quality veteran backup running back at this point of his career. And that's all Washington was looking for. If anything else happens at the running back position, let's just go with the premise that, because we could ill afford to lose J.D. McKissick. So let's just go with the premise that something were to transpire. I'm not going to talk it and speak it into existence. So I'm just going to say, if something were to happen to Peyton Barber, you'd need a veteran back to fill that tough yardage void. Lamar Miller could do that for you. Okay? So let's just go off of that premise. You want to already have that guy in your facility, on your team. He doesn't have to go through COVID protocols, and it won't take him 4 to 5 days to be ready to try to get him up to speed. If something, like I said, and I said this on the podcast earlier when I found out that Lamar Miller was signed, in this unique season of 2020, where we've seen teams be really impacted by COVID-19 and injuries, you cannot be over-prepared in any instance. We saw what happened to the Broncos. That prompted just about every team in the league that's in a competitive situation to say, hey, we need a quarantine quarterback. Washington signed Taylor Heinicke to be their quarantine quarterback, a guy that's not going to be in the room, that's not going to be in close proximity to the other quarterbacks. So if something happens in that room, that guy isn't exposed. Lamar Miller is going to function as a emergency running back. And once Antonio Gibson comes back, you don't need Lamar Miller. You're fine. But until he does return, you're one injury away from saying, all I got is fill in the blank. Because I don't think they trust Javon Leak to come in and give them anything. So in their minds, we need a quality veteran back that we can bring in here that won't wet the bed. And this tells you all you need to know. And I don't really like talking about what other teams are doing because I don't always believe in that other team's coaching staff, i.e. Chicago. I've had rants on them already this season, but when their running back, David Montgomery, went down and I think he missed a game or two, did they turn to Lamar Miller? No. They gave a practice squad guy that they pulled up an opportunity, and they said, here, Cordero Patterson, you take some of the carries, and you catch the football out of the backfield. They gave Lamar Miller table scraps. If they thought highly enough of him, he would have been a much bigger part of the offense with their lead back out of the lineup and their second back, Tariq Cohen, long gone earlier in the season. But they didn't. So that tells you that they think Lamar Miller is way past his prime and he's got 1 foot out the door, which is fine. We're not looking for him to come in here and be a stud. We just need you to be ready. If your number is called, to come in and eat some carries. And I think he's ready to do that at this juncture of his career. So, don't think there's a ton left in that tank, to answer your question. And how does he fit here? To me, he's Peyton Barber-esque in the fact that he's just a veteran back that can give you a little something if need be. But he's not a guy that's dynamic that's going to change the game. He's not moving the needle. So it's not really something you should really concern yourself with. Just like a lot of these moves that we've made to give guys opportunities. And I say, hey, don't get really excited about this guy. Probably not going to see a lot of the field. Same thing. Jeff Badette, all that speed. Oh, guys got excited about him. He got 1 or 2 targets. That's it. You probably won't see him again if we stay relatively healthy at the receiver position. You probably won't see him again. Robert Foster got the one shot that he was going to get, and he blew it. Had a drop in the red zone. It was not an easy catch, as I mentioned yesterday, but you still need to catch the football. And he had a deep ball thrown his way, and he should have caught it, and he slowed down twice. You probably won't see him again, especially if AGG comes back from injury this week, which I surmise he will, and he's activated. You probably won't see Robert Foster again. And I'm not crying over it. Neither should you. Same thing with Lamar Miller. You may never see Lamar Miller. He may never be active. Antonio Gibson could be back next week, and they decide, hey, Lamar, you good on the practice squad over there, man. Sit there and chill. So, we'll see. Lamar could be active this week, for all I know. More likely than not, he won't be, but we'll see. Thank you for the super chat. Got another super chat here from Extra Squaw. Extra Squaw, thank you for the super chat, who writes, super high on Lance and reminds me of Josh Allen, but needs time, and I think we can seriously contend next year. Which quarterback do you think we should go for? It's not about who I think we should go for. It's where are we in the draft, and how do they view the quarterback position? There are so many. That's why the end of the season is so important, because there are so many pieces of this puzzle that we just don't have right now. Like, we've put the edges of the puzzle together. You know how you build the edge of a puzzle, put all those pieces, and then you try to fill inside the puzzle? There are some pieces, some key pieces missing inside the puzzle that won't allow us to start drawing inferences as to what the club should or shouldn't do at the quarterback position. You've got the Kyle Allen angle of should we resign him, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Alex Smith, to me, is the biggest piece that we don't really know right now. Does he want to play next year? How healthy is he? How does he play down the stretch? These are all things that are going to go into consideration when they start analyzing and assessing the quarterback position. You know, if Alex can't go this week, how well does Dwayne play? Does Dwayne play well enough for them to consider him back in the mix? I think I know the answer to that already, but we don't know. You know, and we won't know until, you know, the end of the season, because the picture isn't complete right now. If Alex comes back, plays really well down the stretch, leads us to the playoffs, let's say we win a playoff game, even if we don't win a playoff game and he plays well and he wants to come back, I think Alex Smith is back. At that point, do they draft a young guy, or do they say, hey, we can hold off on that for now? I don't know. Hard to say. And that's the dilemma that you find yourself in. If I had a preference, I told you, I'm not going to really be able to analyze and tell you which one of these guys I like the most. Like, usually during draft time, I'll pick out a quarterback and I'll say, this is my guy in this particular draft. And I've done it in just about every draft. You know, my guy in 2020's draft, I'm trying to think of the quarterbacks. My guy was Joe Burrow. It was Joe Burrow. Period. End of discussion. Obviously, he's the number one pick in the draft, but I told you that was the highest rated quarterback I've had since Andrew Luck in 2012. So it speaks volumes as to how good I thought Joe Burrow was going to be coming into the league, and you saw it in his rookie season. My guy in 2019 was Drew Lock. You knew that. I wanted Washington to draft him. They took Haskins. It is what it is. Jay Gruden wanted Drew Lock. You know, the only person in the organization that wanted Haskins was the owner. So my guy was Drew Lock in 2019. My guy in 2018 was Josh Allen. I told anybody that would listen, this is the guy in this draft. I would take him number one overall. Buffalo got a gift and a steal at 7. You look at all those quarterbacks that were taken. Mayfield starting to reassert himself as a player in that draft at the quarterback position. But you look around and you say, Darnold, I don't know about that. You say Rosen, I don't know about that. And then you got Lamar Jackson to round out that group. And so it's Lamar, it's Josh, and it's Baker right now. I was and still am a Josh Allen guy. So I haven't gotten to the point where I can definitively say, here's my guy. Here's the guy that I would take. Haven't gotten to that point yet. But obviously Trevor Lawrence is good. I've got work to do on Justin Fields, because I watched Justin Fields last year. Wasn't overly impressed. But I've seen a little bit of him this year, and I see some improvements in his game. So, you know, I got to go back and get the full body of work. I've already done my homework on Trey Lance. I like him a lot, but I told you there are some things that worry me that won't show up on tape, that I can't know until you see him in that environment. And, you know, the lack of experience and having never turned it over and and never lost a game, and all those things, those are massive question marks for me that I don't know if I can get past. If you love the talent, you can get past that stuff. But you don't know how a guy handles adversity until the adversity actually hits. We haven't seen that from Trey Lance. He didn't lose a game in college. They won the national championship. He didn't throw an interception in college. So, and I've already told you guys that. So that's not telling you much. That's not saying much. I got to watch Zach Wilson. He's going to come off the board rather quickly, though. He's not going to be around. You know, the secret's out. The cat's out of the bag. Everyone knows about Zach Wilson. You can't sneak. You don't sneak quarterbacks by anybody. If the guy can play, someone will find him, and he'll come off the board sooner rather than later. So, I think I like Zach Wilson, though. I think I like his escapability, his ability to move, his arm strength, his ability to make off-schedule plays and throws. I think I like him a lot, but again, doesn't matter if you like them. If they're not available, you're not going to get your hands on them. So, Kyle Trask for me is a bit of a throwback. This league is moving away from guys like him, but that doesn't mean there isn't a place in the league for him. But this league is moving towards athletically gifted quarterbacks that can extend. Kyle Trask isn't that guy. Any quarterback that's playing with knee braces on, I got issues, man. I got issues. So I don't know, but I can't answer that question. I don't know who we should go for right now. You come back and you ask me that question in a month and a half, and I'll have a definitive answer for you. So, and just so you know, I don't think Trey Lance, I don't see him as Josh Allen. I see him more as like a Dak Prescott. We'll see. That's just how I view him. Super chat here from, let's see, I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Huncho the God Paper Chaser. Thank you for the super chat, Huncho the God Paper Chaser, who writes, the Miller signing reminds me of when we signed Pierre Thomas. That was the name that I was trying to think of. Thank you, Huncho. I was trying to think of the name of the back that we signed in 2015 when we won the division, and he came on the team late, and he provided us with a little bit of spark off the bench. And I was like, damn, who was that back? And I couldn't think of his name, and I was stalling, and his name wouldn't come to me, and I just said, forget it. Pierre Thomas. That's who I was trying to think of. I said, and I was going to equate it to that this signing has a Pierre Thomas type of vibe to it. The only difference is Jay had every intention of using the hell out of Pierre Thomas down the stretch, and he did. I think this staff has zero intentions of using Lamar Miller unless they have to. So that's the difference. Jay brought on Pierre Thomas with the intention of using him, and they did. He was huge in that Eagles division clincher on the road on a Saturday night. They have zero intentions of using Lamar Miller unless they're forced to do so. So I think that's where the similarities end with the two. And that's just a late season signing with a veteran back that has done it in this league before, that is capable. But that's where the similarities end. I think that Jay was like, yo, I could use me some Pierre Thomas. I think they're saying, hey, you just sit there in the cut, and if we need you, we'll call you. But you just be ready. But hopefully we won't have to break in case of an emergency. Got another super chat here from Justin Moody. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Justin Moody. Greatly appreciate you. Justin writes, we can go on a 2011 Giants run if Alex Smith and our defense plays lights out like how Eli and their defense did down the stretch. I think it's a bit of a stretch to say we could go 2011 Giants, just from the standpoint of that defense was elite. Like, remember the Patriots And you might be talking 2007 Giants, not 2011 Giants. The 2007 Giants would be more of a comparison to us than the 2011 Giants. The 2007 Giants, they started out the season, I want to say 0-2. They had given up 80 points in their first two games. I remember they gave up 35 to Dallas and 45 to Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers. And they got us in week 3, and we had them at halftime 14-3. And we had on the white jerseys with the yellow pants and the striped socks. I remember it like it was yesterday because it was dope unis. And the end of that game, Joe Gibbs put in Lydell Betts instead of Clinton Portis. I forgot why he took Portis out, but Lydell Betts ran it a couple of times from the 1-yard line, and we couldn't get in, and we lost the game 17-14. They came back and beat us. And that rejuvenated their season. And they went on a run. They got in the playoffs, I think, as a 6 seed. If I'm not mistaken, they might have been a 5 seed. They did not win the division. They did not have a home playoff game that year. If memory serves me correct, they went to Lambeau that year. I think they beat Dallas, who was I want to say Dallas was the number 1 seed that year. They go to Dallas. I forgot who they beat in wild card weekend, but they beat somebody. They then went to Dallas, coming off of their bye. They were the number 1 seed in the NFC. Beat Dallas. Then they went to Green Bay in just one of the coldest games I've ever watched. It's ridiculously cold that day, that night actually. And they beat Brett Favre, I want to say in overtime, and got to on a Lawrence Tynes field goal and got to the Super Bowl. And remember Brady laughing when somebody laughed when I think it was Plaxico Burress. It might have been Burress or O.C. Umenyiora or Tuck. Somebody made a prediction and said the score was going to be 20-17 or something. And Brady laughed. We're only going to score 17. Remember, that was the undefeated 18-0 Patriots. We're only going to score 17 points. And he laughed. Huh? You didn't even score that. You scored 14. So, anyway, I digress. That team is more comparable to this team, the 07 Giants, but we're not what they were. Even though we got the pieces to do that, we're not. That was a veteran group. That's what you have to understand. Like, it wasn't a bunch of young guys and then this veteran quarterback leading the way. That was a team full of veteran players. You know, Eli was a veteran himself. At that point, you had Strahan as a veteran. You had Tuck as a veteran, even though he was, still kind of young, but still a veteran. Kiwanuka was the one young guy that they had on that defense that was up front contributing, Matthias Kiwanuka. But, all of those guys up front, and OC, veterans. All these guys were veterans. So it was a different group. I think that team might have had Antonio Pierce on it. That might be the 11 team, actually. But anyway, I digress. You done took me down a rabbit hole. I don't think that's us. Not yet. But I think we can do some damage. I think if we get in, nobody's going to... Similar to... I equate this team, and I know Ron is tired of answering questions about 2014 and the parallels between that team and this team, but they're very similar. I think we could get in. We could beat somebody just like they beat Arizona that year. And I think we can go to the second round and scare the shit out of somebody. I don't think we'll win that game. But just like they scared the shit out of Seattle that year, I think we can go and scare the shit out of somebody in the second round, in the divisional round. That's as far as I think this magic carpet ride takes us. But we'll see. We got to get there first. I hate talking about ifs, buts, and all of that stuff. I want to talk about us getting there first. We got to get there first. But to your point, I think there are some similarities, but I think that was a much more veteran team. They had veteran receivers, Amani Toomer, and I can't think of the other guy's name. But they had veterans on that team. Plaxico Burress, obviously, that's not what this team is. We're a bunch of young guys. It's the blind leading the blind. That's why they've taken to Alex Smith so much, because Alex Smith is everything that this team isn't. He's a wily vet. He's seen it all. He's done it all. And that's the kind of guy that they need. Darren Long, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Darren writes, this coaching staff has done an incredible job, specifically with the rookies this year. Props to Ron Rivera, props to Jack Del Rio. I couldn't agree with you more. When you look at how many undrafted guys, especially at receiver, and you got to give some of these positional coaches some love too. Coach Haas, at the receivers coach, magnificent job, man. The question was, is Terry a legit number one? He said, one of the things he really stressed to Terry was, look, bruh, last year you snuck up on people. You're not sneaking up on anybody this year. We're going to have to move you around. You're going to have to learn several different positions. You're going to have more put on your plate, and you've got to be ready to and willing to accept that. Terry's been exceptional in the slot this year. He's moved around. X, Z, slot. He's moved around. He's made plays. But then you look at the development of, an Isaiah Wright, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but he's undrafted out of Temple. I didn't think we were going to get anything out of him, and he's been really solid. Steven Sims, again, you could argue he's regressed, but his route running hasn't regressed, just his hands. And it's not really his hands, it's his confidence. It's just his confidence. But that's an undrafted receiver. He's not a rookie, but he's a second-year guy, And so when you look at Antonio Gibson and you look at all of the parts on this team, that you just say, wow, whether they're free agent acquisitions, young guys, or just guys that are going into their second or third year, it takes a lot to be able to get everybody on one accord, and this staff deserves a lot of credit for getting a young football team to play with confidence, togetherness, and I know the NFC East as a whole really allowed the message of continuing to fight and stay the course and all of that good jazz, made it a lot easier. If you're sitting there at 2-7 and Dallas and Philadelphia are sitting there at 7-2 and 6-3 respectively, and you're sitting there struggling at 7-2, it becomes a lot harder for that message to resonate. But because the division stunk, and there was still a big prize and a goal there within reach, it was easy to tell the guys, keep fighting, we can win this division. So that crutch was there, but still a phenomenal job being turned in by the entire staff, particularly Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio for sure. Got another super chat here from Jake Willis. Thank you for the super chat, Jake Willis. Greatly appreciate you. My man Jake writes, how are we going to be able to keep the D-line together, or are we going to trade one or two for assets? Because quarterback of the future is not here, and we have some serious pieces. So here's the thing. If you spend properly, you can keep as many of these guys as you like. Eventually, other contracts are going to come off the books, i.e. Ryan Kerrigan, $11.5 million. That comes off the books next year. Okay? Sheriff is being paid like $14 million this year on that franchise tag? Now, if you sign him to a long-term deal, you're going to pay him on an average of about 17, 18 million more likely than not, but that cap number is going to come significantly down. So there's ways to keep, and on top of that, we already have a ton of cap space. We're not spending a boatload of money, and so you can keep as many of these guys. I told you my model is the Seattle Seahawks of the early 20 teens. That's my model, where they were able to keep Dick Sherman. They were able to keep KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas. All of those guys. They let that opposite corner of Dick Sherman walk. So they went through a revolving door. Brandon Browner and what's the guy that the Eagles, Byron Maxwell, and all of those guys that they just kept cycling out of there, back and forth. They let that other corner walk. They didn't feel like that was a necessity. But the core guys, Sherman, Chancellor, Thomas, Wagner, Wright, and even to a lesser degree, Bennett. They kept all of those guys in the fold for multiple years. You can do it. Now, obviously, they had a rookie contract there with Russ, so it allowed them to keep that nucleus intact. Soon as it became time for Russ to get paid, though, had to move on from Dick Sherman. Cam Chancellor came off the books with the retirement. They moved on from Earl Thomas. They kept KJ Wright. They kept Bobby Wagner. They were able to keep those two. They moved on from Bennett. So eventually, the core is going to get, shaken up. But you can keep as many of these guys. And the difference between what I just talked about and the guys they're super young. So they're going to bring back Sweat. They're going to bring back Young. You know what I mean? I think where the decisions will have to be made on the defensive line is going to be inside. I think they're bringing back Allen. I think Settle is going to be the one that they're going to allow to leave. I think they're going to try to bring back Payne and Allen. And I know they're going to want Cole Holcomb back once his deal is up in a couple of years. He's got 2 years left on his rookie contract. They're going to try to bring him back. But I could see them, at some point you're going to get out of the Landon Collins business. That's going to save you a ton of money. So there are ways to do it. But eventually, if you find that franchise quarterback, it's going to cost you big. And that's going to force you to have to make some TDs. Tough decisions. So we're not there yet. We don't have to worry about any of that stuff right now. But the defense is the catalyst right now, and they're going to keep as many of those guys together for as long as they can. And I think they will ultimately do that. Successfully, I might add. I'm going to tell you this right now, though. Let me say this. Let me make sure I didn't miss any super chats. I'm gonna say this right now. Ron Rivera has made it abundantly clear that he wants to sign a veteran wide receiver. They tried to get one last year. It didn't work out with Amari Cooper. And Ron already kind of alluded to this in his presser last week. And this was a throwaway line. But even in throwaway lines, you can take some things from it. And he said, we got a lot of good young pieces here. And then whether you need to go out and get a veteran wide receiver to complete it or not, but we got a lot of people. That told me all I needed to hear right there. He still thinks this group needs a veteran to lead. So I wouldn't be shocked if they were in the market for a wide receiver. We kept talking about, get this receiver in the draft. I don't think they're looking for it. They probably feel like we got enough of these youngins already, man. Kelvin Harmon is a second-year receiver. And next year when he comes back, even though his NFL experience designation will say third year, he's essentially a second-year wide receiver. Terry's going to be a third-year wide receiver. AGG is going to be a second-year wide receiver. But for all intents and purposes, he's still a rookie. Hasn't really done much this year. Isaiah Wright's going to be going into his second year. Steven Sims is going to be going into his third season. You see where I'm going with this. Cam Sims is going into his fourth season, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is his fourth. Next year would be his fourth. Maybe it'll be his third. But you see where I'm going with this. This is a young group. I think he feels like he needs a veteran, a guy going into his second contract, going into his fifth or sixth season in the league, seen it, done it, can lead these guys. So just keep that in mind. I think they still want to spend on a free agent wide receiver. The Phillies ace 34. Double up. Thank you for doubling up the Phillies Ace 34. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, I am glad you're not like the delusional Cowboys and Giants fans. You are sold on Daniel Jones being a quarterback that can take New York to the promised land. I think Daniel Jones is talented. I'm not a Daniel Jones fan, but I'm not oblivious to the fact that the guy has talent. And so I understand that there are certain things that you can fix in this league and certain things that are less likely to be fixed. I will never say you can't. Like, that was the thing on Josh Allen when he came into the league. Oh, his accuracy. You can't fix inaccurate quarterbacks. I told you everything that I needed to see was there. The mechanics were there. The athleticism was there. The ability to extend, the strong arm. Everything was there. I paid attention to the fact that he lost a bunch of NFL talent the year prior. His center, which we had, Chase Rouillet, got drafted from Wyoming, so he lost that guy. His running back got drafted into the NFL. His wide receiver got drafted, and his tight end got drafted into the NFL. He plays for the Seahawks right now, and Jacob Hollister. He lost a lot of NFL talent. So he tried to make up for it by himself. He made mistakes. He got injured. He came back and he played, and I was like, this is the guy right here, Josh Allen. This is the guy. And he got to the NFL, and he thought he was still playing out in the Mountain West Conference, and thought he was still playing against Boise, and he thought he was still playing against Utah and Utah State. And he forgot that these guys out here, much better than what you were used to. You can't run 20 yards to your right and throw all the way back across your body to the left. That's getting picked off here. So it took him a little while to learn and adjust to the speed of the game and figure out what he could and couldn't do. And yeah, he made some slight adjustments and tweaks to his mechanics. But for the most part, Josh Allen is who I thought he was. When I look at Daniel Jones, I always tend to favor the guys that I look at and I say to myself, I can work with that. Yep, he made a mistake here, made a poor read there. I can work with that, though. That's why when I looked at Kyle Allen, I'm like, I can work with that. I can do something with that. Now, doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, Kyle Allen, but I can work with that. That's a poor read. We can fix that. Maybe not the best decision in the world to go with the football there, but I can fix that. We can work on that. It wasn't a mechanical issue. Like Peyton Manning throwing 28 interceptions in his rookie season. That's not a mechanics issue. That's the speed of the game. Shit's a little different up here. Guys are a lot better. That wasn't a good read. But we can fix those things. We can adjust and adapt. When a guy physically can't do it, I can fix mental. That's the thing. I can rewire a guy's brain and get him to understand, hey, up here, this is how we do things. And that's what it is. Like the fumbles in the pocket, that's no different than Tiki Barber having to carry high and tight. I can fix that. 2 hands on the ball security at all times. Like we can fix that. You fix the offensive line and you might not even have to worry about him fumbling in the pocket that often. He's getting hit too much. The poor reads and things like that. We can fix that. We can go in the lab. We can fix that. All the things with Daniel Jones is up here. It's all mental. So you can fix that kind of stuff. When we got to do physical makeovers, that's when I'm like, I don't know about this. And that's not the case with Daniel Jones. I'm not willing to give up on Daniel Jones. Not yet. I'm not saying he's the end-all, be-all in New York, but I'd be willing to give him another year. Year 2 in the same system. He'll be a lot more comfortable. I wouldn't be willing to give up on him if I were the Giants, but we'll see what they do. Got one here from Steve Sims. Thank you for the super chat, Steve Sims. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, which wide receiver 2 do you think we should go after? And also, do you think we should go after a tight end? Which wide receiver number 2 should we go after? I've told you that there were a couple on my short list. I don't want just anybody. There were 2 guys in particular now I'm a little nervous and apprehensive after seeing Will Fuller get suspended for PEDs. Never want a guy that has gotten busted multiple times for the same offense, because that shows a lack of awareness. And you're one more strike away from the league saying, hey, don't come back until we say so. You know, right now, you're on a fixed suspension, 6 games. The next time, and you suspended indefinitely, you don't come back until we say it's okay. That's when you got to start. That's when you got to start reinstation. That's when you got to start applying for reinstation. Being reinstated into the league. That's when you got to start applying for that. I don't want guys that are one strike away from having to reapply to be reinstated into the league. But I'm a massive Will Fuller guy, and I'm a Corey Davis guy. Those were my two. I really want Corey Davis some kind of bad, but I'm pretty sure the Titans are going to want him back too. And I don't think he wants to leave Tennessee. And if they're smart, if they can't work out a long-term deal with him, I'd slap the franchise tag on him. I don't think he's leaving Tennessee. I don't think they're going to give him an opportunity to leave Tennessee. So that was my short list at receiver. As far as tight end, I don't know if we are as aggressive after Logan Thomas. I think they're really excited about Logan Thomas. I think they go after another Logan Thomas type in free agency. They're going to probably say, hey, we did such a nice job on Logan. Let's see if we can't do it twice. See if we can't find another underperforming, underutilized, talent-rich tight end that we think just needs an opportunity. I.e. somebody else's third-string tight end or somebody else's second-string tight end that just wasn't getting the reps. So it wouldn't shock me if, I'll give you an example. And I don't think this guy's a free agent, and I don't think this is a guy that they're looking at. But this is just a hypothetical. Say Mo Alley Cox of the Indianapolis Colts was a free agent this year coming up. And I don't think he's even close. I think he's like 2 years away from that. But let's just say Mo Alley Cox is a free agent. That's the kind of guy I think they would go after in free agency this year. I don't think they would go after, Hunter Henry. I could be wrong. He could be on their radar. He's on the franchise tag with the Chargers. He may or may not be back next year. But I don't think – last year I think they were willing to go after a Hunter Henry if he would have come available. This year I don't know if they're so, gung-ho after seeing Logan Thomas develop. They may want to try to, hit that clearance rack again and see if they can't get a item off of that rack and have it, outperform the price tag. Ron has talked about that numerous times in these pressers about how important it is to get guys that overperform their contract, that outperform their contract. So I think they feel really good about what they did last year, and they might try to duplicate it on some of those positions, and I think tight end might be one of them. Let's see. Got a super chat here from Brian Wells. Thank you for the super chat, Brian Wells. Greatly appreciate you. Brian writes, we are the 2000 Ravens. They had Trent Dilfer. We are not the 2000 Ravens. They were winning games off the strength of their defense the entire year. And oh, by the way, they had Jamal Lewis at running back. Okay, so it was a ridiculous ground game. It was a quarterback that they pretty much said, hey, you just stay the hell out of the way. And their defense was giving up. There were games where first of all, they pitched shutouts that year. There were games where teams didn't score 10. I think I remember a playoff game in which I think they beat the Titans 13-10 or something like we're not doing that. And this league isn't built like that anymore. You'll never see the 2000 Ravens as dominant as the 49ers were on defense last year, and they were dominant. They gave up 45 to the Saints in a regular season game. They gave up 31 to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl after holding them to just 10. They exploded for what 31, I think, in the no, they didn't score 31, did they? Did they score 21? Yeah, I think they did score 21 points in that final frame. In the final 7 minutes of the game, I think it was. Anyway, excuse me. We're not the 2000 Ravens. The football just isn't played that way anymore. You're not going to see a 2000 Ravens again. You know, teams aren't holding good offenses to, the rules just don't allow it to hold a great offense to just 3 points or 7 or 10 or 13. That's not happening. Not on a consistent basis. The 2000 Ravens go down in history along with the 2002 Bucks and the 85 Bears, you know, and you know, some of those Steelers teams and some things of that nature. Some of the greatest defenses. I think the 91 Washington Redskins need to be in that conversation as well. Nobody talks about that 91 defense, but it was elite. But that's nor here nor there. We're not the 2000 Ravens. Just want to put that to bed right now. Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Fat American writes, it would be nice to see us have a dominant line play from both sides next year. Even if our offense isn't explosive, a dominant physical offensive line would help a ton. Just like the 2007 Giants. Indeed. You know, that was a really talented Giants front that year in 2007. If you can win both sides of the line of scrimmage, you know, on defense and offense, you got a legitimate shot at being a tough team to deal with. Because the way the league is set up right now, you know, not a lot of teams can dominate both lines of scrimmage. You may be dominant on the offensive line, like the Tennessee Titans, like the Cleveland Browns, but conversely, you're not dominant on the defensive line. They got Myles Garrett and they got Sheldon Richardson and Olivier Vernon, and that's cool. But you can score on the Browns defense. You can run on the Browns defense. You can throw on the Browns defense. You know, same thing can be said for the Titans. Dominant up front on that offensive line. Derrick Henry is King Henry. But their defensive line is not good. You can run it against them. You can throw it against them. They don't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. We don't see that in this league. So if you can do that, if you can set up a situation where you're dominant on both the defensive and offensive lines, you got something. But that's easier said than done. It's a lot harder to do in today's NFL. It really is. All right. So that was my final super chat. So let's get into in other news. The first thing I wanted to bring up was something that was already brought up in a super chat, which was we signed Lamar Miller. Really don't need to go into specific details. I've already done that already, but just know that he's an insurance policy. Nothing more, nothing less. Then I wanted to get into, obviously, all three of our Wednesday usuals spoke. Head coach Ron Rivera, offensive coordinator Scott Turner, starting quarterback Alex Smith. We'll talk about what they had to say. But I wanted to bring this to your doorstep. So I posed a hypothetical quarterback scenario on Flick. So if you're not in the MOBB, stand up. We in the building. If you're not a part of the Mob Squad, what are you waiting on? Become a member of the Mob Squad and get in the game. I put a poll out yesterday. And the poll pretty much asked the following question. It's a hypothetical for the upcoming offseason. And it pretty much went as follows. And matter of fact, let me pull it up so I can read it verbatim. And I phrased it specifically in a way that I'm going to explain everything to you in my thought process when I developed this poll question. Because I had a specific situation in mind and I wanted to get you guys involved and get your take on it. So my poll question is as follows. Which one of these offseason quarterback scenarios would you be on board with the most, in all caps, most in all caps? So here are the 5 scenarios that I gave. Trade with Detroit for Matthew Stafford. Trade with the New York Jets for Sam Darnold. Trade with the Atlanta Falcons for Matt Ryan. Sign free agent quarterback Dak Prescott. Sign free agent quarterback Kyle Allen. Those are your 5 options. Okay? I'll go over them once more. Which of these offseason quarterback scenarios would you be on board with the most? Trade with Detroit for Matthew Stafford. Trade with the New York Jets for Sam Darnold. Trade with the Atlanta Falcons for Matt Ryan. Sign free agent quarterback Dakota Prescott. Sign free agent quarterback Kyle Allen. Now, here's the situation. Every one of those scenarios is assuming that Alex Smith is not back next year. So you'll save that $14 million or so from his contract, and you'll add that to the books, and that will be ammunition to, restructure a deal if you need to, trade for somebody. And I'm not in favor of trading for a guy and then ripping up their contract. I'm not in favor of doing that, like we did with Alex Smith. I don't think that's the smart thing to do. You trade for that guy, whatever contract he's on, and all these guys are on pretty lucrative deals outside of Sam Darnold and Kyle Allen. Sam Darnold's on his rookie deal, and Kyle Allen will be a free agent this upcoming offseason. And Dak Prescott isn't under contract, but you'd have to sign him to a massive deal. But, Matt Ryan is $30 million a year. Matthew Stafford is $27 million a year. So these are substantial contracts, but in the direction that we're going in this league with these contracts, that's chump change. 27 mil for Matt Stafford per year till 2023. That's chump change. Chump change for a guy of his caliber. So now let me state my position first before you guys get carried away, because it's a hypothetical for a reason. So let me state my position very clearly so we understand each other and you know where I'm coming from. This is a hypothetical, meaning it's make-believe. I myself, and the reason that draft a quarterback isn't an option on this list, in this poll, is because I myself want to draft a young quarterback. If that option were available, most of you would take draft a quarterback. And this poll would have something like 95% response drafting a quarterback. I don't want that scenario to be inserted here. I'm aware that most of us, including myself, let me make this abundantly clear, I want to draft a young quarterback. That is my preference. My preference, if the season ended today and Alex wants to play next year, is to bring Alex Smith back, Kyle Allen back, and draft a young quarterback. Trade Dwayne Haskins and move on, start fresh. That's my preference. Draft a youngin', let him learn. Let's say Alex Smith doesn't want to come back. I still, and I'll tell you the option that I selected. I selected sign Kyle Allen. Cheap, saves you money, can come in, can run your offense. You know what you're getting, and draft a youngin'. Will that allow you to maximize this football team? I don't know. I don't have the answers for you. I just know he can run the offense. And I know the defense is getting better. And if the defense takes a monumental step and you got a guy that's competent, and can run your offense, and you can score enough points, you can win football games. And the young guy can learn. But I didn't want that option injected into this conversation because I think most of us want the young quarterback. I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of What if Washington decided this team is ready to go right now? We thought we were a lot further off than when we were. We thought this was going to be a 2.5-year rebuild project, and we realized that this defense is ready to go right now. Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas, they're ready to go right now. You add a veteran wide receiver to this mix, maybe draft a tight end or a corner or a safety, or offensive lineman. This team is ready to go now. Insert veteran, and here we go. We're a Super Bowl contender. If the organization viewed it in that light, that, hey, we're ready. The defense, they're ready. Terry, he's ready. Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, Logan Thomas, Cam Sims, they're ready. Add in veteran, wide receiver, and let's go. And they say, hey, all we need to do is just drop a veteran quarterback in the middle of this thing and we're ready to blow. We're ready to explode. What would you do? Which one of those options would you take? I'm being cheap. I'm going with the cheap option. The cheap option that I know works. Would I be mad at any of those options? Nah, I wouldn't be. If you told me we got to spend money, Kyle Allen is not an option here. We got to go after somebody. I'd take Stafford. I'd take Matthew Stafford. Here's the problem with Sam Darnold. If you bring him here, you got to play him right away. Right? I mean, as they say across the pond, straight away. You can't let him sit. You can't let him learn. He's got to play right now. Why? Because he's going into year 4. So you got to pick up the 5th-year option just to give yourself another year to figure out. And if you don't play him in year 1, now you only got 1 season to figure out, do we want to extend a long-term deal to Sam Darnold? You're in a tough spot with Darnold because you got 2 years to figure out, is this a guy I want to rock with? Just 2 years. It's going to take him 2 years just to get fully comfortable with this system. So it's a hard sell for me on Darnold because you're going to have to make a decision on him quickly. And he hasn't been healthy in his NFL career. You know, whether it's a back or a shoulder or it's mono or it's an ankle, he's always got something. So for me, it would be Stafford. I don't want Matt Ryan. He's too old. 35, I can't do it. And not that age really matters anymore in the league like it used to. But yeah, no, I'm good. I want a guy that can move a little bit. Stafford can move a little bit. Give me Stafford. Still young enough to be dangerous. A lot of football left in him. He's dealt with some injuries too. He's a tough cookie, but I think he'd fit in to this offense. So I'm Kyle Allen first, and then I would be Matthew Stafford second, a close second. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to Super Chat. I got a couple Super Chats here. So let's get to this first one from Eddie Behringer. Thank you for the Super Chat, Eddie B, who writes, what if Haskins is getting the practice reps and Smith is getting mental reps just to rest him? Seattle prepares for Haskins and Smith starts. Part 1. And so I'm assuming that there's a part 2. If Smith needs to come out, Haskins has had his reps. We do have better coaches now. Maybe it's a strategy. Double up. Thank you for doubling it up, Eddie B. Greatly appreciate you. So here's the thought process. There is no strategy here. There is no, magic, situation that they're trying to impart. And I don't think they're trying to be sneaky here or reinvent the wheel in terms of reps during the week. I think they feel like the one thing, and I read a tweet today from Ian Rappaport, and I thought it was a very apt tweet that pretty much said, Alex doesn't need reps. He needs rest. This is a guy that's been in the league 15 years. He doesn't need reps. Sure, he'd like to practice. No, everybody wants to practice so that they, have gotten in the mental reps, the physical reps, and, becomes muscle memory, and they're able to do it when the game comes. But if anybody didn't need reps on this team and could play on Sunday, it'd be Alex Smith. And Rivera said that in the presser today. Dwayne took the first team reps, all the reps, and he needs them more than Alex does. If, in fact, he has to play, we'd like him to be more prepared than he was this past week. Now, again, I didn't think he was terrible. I just thought he did the things that we expect Dwayne Haskins to do, which is, miss an open read, miss, open receivers from time to time. He'll give us a chance. He'll make some throws. But he's not going to be mobile. He's not going to get out of the pocket. There are going to be some plays where you go, what the hell was that? And, it is what it is. At this point, that's what I've come to expect. Anything other than that, I'm surprised. You got me. Hands up. I'm surprised. So, in my mind, this isn't a strategy. I just think Alex needs rest. He said he injured this calf against Pittsburgh. But he was able to go through the week of practice. It felt fine. Then he got in the game, and it stiffened up on him, and they couldn't get it loose. And it started to hinder him as a passer. He couldn't, drive off of it. He couldn't drop back and move and plant the way that he wanted to. And so he was hurting the team instead of helping it. And that's why he exited stage left and allowed Dwayne to take over. So I don't think this is a strategy as much as it is, hey, this is out of necessity. Let's get Dwayne up to speed in case he's got to go. Got a super chat here from Fat American. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Fat American. Greatly appreciate you. Fat American writes, Rams a prime example of physically dominant play from an offensive and defensive line. Yeah, pretty much. I wouldn't necessarily deem their offensive line dominant and aggressively attacking the line of scrimmage and creating a new line of scrimmage. I don't think I view the Rams as that. They're a zone run blocking team, so they're athletic. They get you going. They use Sean McVay does a variance of things, whether it's changing tempo by coming out of the huddle with 7 seconds left, sprinting up to the line of scrimmage and snapping the ball quickly, or come out and there's no cadence. There's no blue 42, green 16. There's no Omaha or, Adams family or none of that bullshit. You just come up, hut, ball. They change tempo. They change cadence. They use different variations of the same play out of different formations. Sean McVay just does a great job of scheming it up. I don't think their line is dominant. They just come like the Titans and the Browns offensive lines are dominant. Like the 49ers line isn't dominant. They just have a great scheme. The Rams line isn't dominant. They just got a great scheme. There's a difference. The Titans line up man on man and they put your dick in the dirt. The Browns line up man on man and yeah, they get you stretching too. They get you guys on skates. But when they need to, they could go right in between the tackles in a gap scheme and not go stretch and not go zone. So when you talk about, those types of offensive lines controlling the line of scrimmage, you're talking about teams that can come off the ball and just bully you. That's the Browns and that's the Titans for me right now. There aren't very many teams offensively that are doing that. This league has changed drastically from the days of 3 yards in a cloud of dust. The Rams aren't that offensive line. They're a quality group, but they're not like dominant. Like their defensive line now, I grant you that their defensive line is dominant. You know, Aaron Donald leading the way, Michael Brockers, Sheldon, Day, and all those guys. Joseph, forgot his name, Joseph Sheldon Day or whatever it is. They got some ballers up there up front. Some dudes that are playing some ball. But I don't think their offensive line is dominant. But I know what you're trying to say. I know where you're going. And you're right. It's just hard to put that together on both sides, which is what I kind of alluded to earlier during your comment. Thank you for that super chat once again and doubling up. Fat American. Got one here from Atypical Brother. Atypical Brother, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, what up, Lou? Not going to lie, this Seattle game scares me. Me too. I don't think we have anyone in the secondary for Metcalf. I've already talked about that on the podcast. Your thoughts? I think you listened to the podcast. I already said I'm afraid of Seattle. I'm afraid of Russell Wilson, but I am terrified of DK Metcalf. Unlike the Giants, and the reason I think I talked about it on the podcast, somebody brought up the Giants game and said, do you think we can do what the Giants did to the Seahawks? As a matter of fact, it was my man, Phillies fan 34 that brought it up. And I said, not exactly. We're not the Giants defensively, We're not the Giants. James Bradbury, hands down to me, the best offseason acquisition on the defensive side of football this year. You could argue some guys on the offensive side were huge difference makers. And I'm not talking via trade. I'm just talking about strictly free agent signings. There have been a number of guys. Byron Jones has been a massive, impactful signing for the Dolphins. Same with Kyle Van Noy in Miami. Like, there are other guys that have been massive impacts to the team. Kendall Fuller for us, massive impact on the defensive side. But nobody has been more impactful for their team and what they do to me than James Bradbury. And he showed his value against the Seahawks. Because DK Metcalf has been tearing every defender he's faced this season, with the exception of James Bradbury and Patrick Peterson, a new asshole. Every single one of them. And Jalen Ramsey, too. Don't forget about that one. Everybody else, it's 116, it's 147, it's 190. It's all these big, gaudy numbers. Can't run with him. Can't stop him. He lit up Darius Slay. Made him look like child's play. I don't think we got a corner that can F with DK Metcalf. But I've already said that. So, I'm definitely fearful of this game. If we, in the Giants, what they did is they got to Russell Wilson up front, specifically on the interior. Leonard Williams had 3 sacks in that game. If you wanna bottle up Russell Wilson, because I don't think he's gonna be able to get to the perimeter. But remember, Russ is looking to throw, not to run. The only time he's really looking to run is when he escapes up the A or B gaps. When Russ flushes to the outside, he's looking to extend the throw. He's not getting away from Montez Sweat or Chase Young on the edges. So I don't worry about that. I worry, are we going to keep sound integrity inside? Are we going to be able to rush from the inside? Because that's where the Giants really hurt him. You want to get after Russ, do it inside. I don't want to start twisting and stunting, though, because then if we get pinned inside, he will get outside. He will do damage on the outsides. So I don't want to do that. So I'm afraid. But we'll talk more about that game later on in the week. Got a super chat here from Josh Kirby. Thank you for the super chat, Josh Kirby. Greatly appreciate you. Josh writes, Lou, you're telling me you don't want to pick up Nick Mullins' free agency. Just playing. He says, nevertheless, appreciate the hard work you put in the show. Keep grinding, my guy. I appreciate you, man. I really do, Josh. Thank you so much for the support, the love, and the participation. I can tell you this too. When I look at the way we're set up, I think it's sustainable. Obviously, you need a quarterback to really feel like, okay, year after year after year after year, we're going to have a shot. Because as we saw with the 49ers, you're one or two injuries away from your elite defense being marginal at best. So you can't rely on just elite defense. If you want to be a consistent contender in this league, and you know what I call it? A triple P. Perennial playoff participant. You want to be, I'm dying to be a triple P. I'm dying to be a triple P. You want to be one of those? You need a quarterback. You need a quarterback. It's a really simple equation. Saw what Lamar Jackson did on Monday? You see what Patrick Mahomes does on a weekly basis? You see what Aaron Rodgers has done throughout his career? Not everybody is guaranteed just because you got a franchise guy, i.e. Atlanta, i.e. Detroit. I'm aware of this. But you give yourself a much better chance when you got a guy. So I think what we're doing is sustainable. But they can't ignore the quarterback position, which is why I want to draft a young guy this year. You could put a Band-Aid on it and go get a veteran. But at some point, you need somebody you can call your own. And I just feel like you need to go get that guy. So let's talk about, and let me just give you the results of the poll, and it's still open. Right now, we're up to 89 votes. I want to get this thing up to around 200 or 300 before I close it, so I can kind of really get a good gauge and feel for what you guys would do. But right now, 0% of you would trade for Matt Ryan. So you guys are in agreement with me there. And as I mentioned, we're almost at 90 votes, almost at 100 with 89. 0 people have voted for trade for Matt Ryan. I'm in that same camp. I'm not paying $30 million a year for Matt Ryan at 35. That's not my idea of fixing the quarterback position. 15% of you would sign Kyle Allen, which is what I would do if I felt like they were going to draft a young guy. If they're not going to draft a young guy, my number one option is trade for Matthew Stafford. So Kyle Allen got 15%. Now it's 14%. Now we got 90 votes. 14%. 19%, so this is the third option. This is option 3 right now in the poll, is trade for Sam Darnold with the Jets. That's at 19%. Only 2 years left on his deal. He'd have to come in and wow you, knock your socks off, or else whatever you give up is probably going to go in vain if he doesn't wow you in the first 2 years, because you can't extend him and you don't want to give him a franchise tag. The fourth option right now is Matthew Stafford. Trade for Stafford. 26%. That's what I would do. If you're not drafting a young guy, because if you trade for Stafford, you're envisioning Stafford being your guy for the next 5 to 7 years. You don't draft a young guy if that's the case. And Stafford's contract is up in 2023. So if you were to draft a guy in 2021, you'd have 3 years of Stafford left before you'd have to make a decision on his future. And if Stafford's balling, that young guy really won't be able to show what he can do until year 4 of his career. Theoretically speaking, that is. Now we got 94 votes, and Stafford is up to 27%. And the biggest response right now is Prescott. Dak Prescott. Sign him as a free agent. 42% of the 95 votes say sign Dak Prescott. It's going to cost you a lot of money, but he's young. He's going into the prime of his career. And if that injury heals the way that we think it's going to heal, this is a guy that's seen the field very well. And I think he would fit very well in Scott Turner's offense. So that's how that poll is going now. I'll update you on the results of that later on down the line. And we'll see how it goes. I'm going to say something controversial. And then I'm going to move on. You're going to kill, some of you are going to kill me for this. I don't care. No, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to read this super chat. Because it's unnecessary. I don't need to say it. I'm going to read this super chat instead. Atypical brother. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Atypical brother. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, how do you feel about Reuben Foster? Do you believe it's worth giving him a new contract or let him walk? He's been injury prone since being here. So here's the thing with Reuben Foster. I don't think Ron Rivera ever wanted him. Okay. If Ron were here when he was a free agent, when he was released and cleared waivers from the 49ers, he wouldn't be here. That was a Bruce Allen move. Ron Rivera inherited him. And Ron, after inheriting him, said, hey, this guy's done everything we asked him to do. He's been a model citizen. I got no problems with him. I think Ron is open to giving this guy a second chance. Even though I don't think Ron really loves the character there. He hasn't done anything to suggest that, that those problems are behind him. And so if he continues to be a model citizen and we don't hear about Reuben Foster, I think they're willing to give him a 1-year prove-it deal. That's the most he can get. They're not going to give him anything more than that. 1-year prove-it deal. You come back, you prove to us that the first round pick from Alabama still exists somewhere in that body. And if you prove that, we'll talk turkey at the end of the season about maybe extending you and giving you a long-term deal. But I think they're interested in Reuben Foster. If they weren't, why not just cut him? You put him on IR to hold on to him. You still got first dibs on Reuben Foster. You could sign him theoretically before free agency starts. You could sign him to a 1-year deal before free agency starts and not have to worry about anybody else. And nobody else is going to try and sign him away from you. He hasn't shown anything since he's gotten here. So you don't have to worry about somebody trying to wrestle him away from you. But if they didn't want him, they could have just cut him. They could have just released him, not put him on IR. They could have just released him. Flat out, injury settlement, bye. See you later. They didn't do that. So that tells me that there is some interest there, and it's probably mutual. And I think he'll be back on a 1-year deal next year, if I had to guess. Like, we keep talking about linebacker being a massive, hole on this team, and that we could use an upgrade. And they may be viewing it the same way, but they may think, well, we don't need a first or second round option at linebacker right now. We want to try this Reuben Foster fella out. Maybe draft a third round linebacker. We're cool with that. But we don't need to invest first or second. Now, again, the draft is going to dictate what you do. You may not feel like, hey, we got to get a receiver or we got to get a safety or we got to get an offensive lineman. But if a guy is staring you in the face and this is tremendous value, you're not going to turn it down. You might have had linebacker as your fourth need on the roster, but you're staring at a first round linebacker at the perfect spot. And you're like, we can't pass this up. You take the linebacker. A need's a need's a need. You scratch it off as you go in the draft. You like a guy, you get him. But you don't allow your needs to dictate what you do. You allow the draft to dictate what you do. So I think Kyle Smith has done a great job of doing that. Because if that were the case, we would have took a tight end last year in the draft. We had ample opportunities to take a tight end, and they passed because nobody fit the value of the pick that they were at. So they just say, well, we're good. We'll be all right. Got another super chat. This one is from the Great. Thank you for the super chat. The Great, who writes, trade for Deshaun Watson for 2 first-round picks. He is drained from being in Houston. He is worth 2 first-round picks. Houston wasting his prime. That's great. But guess what? I tell people this all the time. Trades aren't one-sided. You don't get to choose when a guy is rescued from his destination that's draining him. Houston has to say, you know what? We want out of the Deshaun Watson business. If you're going to lure anybody to Houston to be your general manager, your head coach, or anything of the sort, which they're currently interviewing candidates as we speak for both positions that are open. What's the one draw? What's the one attraction that would make anybody want to come to Houston? And it's not J.J. Watt. It's Deshaun Watson. I'm only taking this job because of Deshaun Watson. You don't have Deshaun Watson, I don't want your job. It stinks. You don't have any draft capital. This team isn't overly talented. Deshaun Watson is the only reason anybody is interested in the Texans job. You really think that the GM's first order of business when he gets there is, hey, let's see what we can get for Deshaun Watson? No, they're saying, let's see how we can build around number 4. That's why he wasn't in my hypothetical, because he's not going to be available. Every one of those guys in my hypothetical will be available. I think you can get Matthew Stafford for the right price. If the right guy takes over and has the right vision, he's going to look at Matthew Stafford and say, you know what? He's done some good things here, but I think we need to go in a different direction. Same thing for Matt Ryan in Atlanta. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but I think you can pick up the phone and call Detroit, and they'd actually listen. They may not pull the trigger, but they'll listen. Same thing with Atlanta. You can call them, and you won't get hung up on in the first 30 seconds. You call Houston, hey, man, what would it take to get Deshaun? Hello? Hello? They've already hung up on you. So, it's cool wanting Deshaun, but Houston has to be willing to part with him, and they're not. Nor should they. They've done a lot of stupid things here. The guy that was doing the stupid things, that bad man, he's gone. Just like the bad man that was here doing stupid things, he's gone. You're not going to see them doing foolish things anymore. They're not giving away any players. They're not trading inordinate amount of picks for players anymore. That's over with. And they're definitely not giving away Deshaun Watson. Got another one here from, let's see, Billy Ampifo. Thank you for the super chat, Billy Ampifo. Greatly appreciate you. My man Billy Amp writes, Louie, say the controversial thing you wanted to say. Also, if we don't trade up, the only QB I think we get is Trey Lance. But I'm hesitant because he's only a 1-year starter. He's gone. I'm going to tell you right now, Billy. He is gone by the time we get on the board. I fully intend on making the playoffs. I think this team is going to be drafting in the 20s. You know, he'll be gone long. You know how it is with quarterbacks and offensive linemen. They get pushed up in the draft. They don't get pushed back. They get pushed up. Trey Lance is intriguing. All it takes is one. Someone's going to pull the trigger. He's going to be gone. So I don't anticipate Trey Lance lasting to the top, out of the top 10. You know, there are even some fringe teams that could entertain the idea of taking a quarterback. Not to say that those teams would do it, and not to say that they're going to, but I think they could entertain taking a quarterback. They may not be ahead of us in the draft, though, but who's to say they don't trade up? I.e. Pittsburgh, i.e. Indianapolis. If they're not looking for veterans, those teams could trade up and get them a guy. Who's to say we don't trade up and get us a guy? If you're Indianapolis or you're Pittsburgh and you feel like, hey, we're right there and we feel like we're going to be good for the next 2 or 3 years, and we give you a first round pick to go up and get a guy, we don't feel like that first round pick is going to end up being the 8th overall pick, so we're good. You do it. For us, we don't really know what the hell our future holds. You know, we could be good this year, stinky the next. I don't know if we're in a position to give away any draft capital for a quarterback. I think you just take the guy as they come. You got to absolutely love a guy and feel like, look, this is the guy. This is absolutely the guy. And I'll take it a step further. With us, you can't just draft a guy that fits Scott Turner's system. Because Scott Turner, I was reading an article the other day, and they were talking about coaching candidates. And they said that Scott Turner was going to be on a short list of coaches that would be in demand this offseason. I don't believe that. But the fact that his name is already coming up, and I like him a lot, means that he's got 2 or 3 good years in him here, minimum, before teams start getting nosy and sniffing around. He's here a maximum of 5 years before he's gone and gets a head coaching job. So you don't want to go out and say, hey, what guy fits Scott's scheme to a T? If you're Kyle Smith, you got to be thinking big picture. No matter what we're doing, does this guy fit what we view as a franchise quarterback? Does his skill set fit any system that we may bring in here? Whether Scott's here or Scott gets a job to be a head coach somewhere, does this guy fit? Can we bring in somebody else and have them pick right up where Scott left off, or bring in their system and this quarterback transitions seamlessly? I think that's the thing. I don't think Trey Lance will be around, personally. We'll see. The controversial thing that I was going to say. I would take Mitchell Trubisky over Dwayne Haskins. There, I said it. Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Metaphor writes, controversy? I just said it. He says, let's grab Albert Hainsworth again. Ha ha. Very funny. Speaking of Albert Hainsworth, is he okay? I remember the last time I heard about him, he was in a hospital and it was like he was clinging to life or something. He had some stuff going on, some health issues. Is he okay? I would assume he's okay. We haven't heard anything since then, but I guess. I digress. Anyway, the coaches spoke and Alex Smith spoke today. Ron was salty today. Ron was short. He was not with the shits today. Was no ha ha he he from Ron today. Ron wasn't feeling it. This was one of those days where he was just moody. Maybe it had something to do with the cancer. I don't know. But Ron wasn't in the mood today. You know, he was short. If he didn't like your question, you got a one-word answer and you kept it pushing. But he did talk about something that I talked about the other day, and it, again, I've talked about this already. And it's just keeping the team focused. You know, them understanding that. And I meant to share this with you guys yesterday, but I forgot. Vegas odds, the odds makers have come around to this football team. And remember, Rivera said in his victory speech to the team after the win versus San Francisco that they've taken notice. You're gaining respect around the league. Nobody wants to play us. You got to be able to handle this. You got to be humble. But they've taken notice. You've earned respect around the league. He's right. Because we're now, this is not in the NFCs. We are now 28-1 odds. We've got 28. Listen to this. 28-1 odds to come out of the NFC conference. We're tied with Arizona. 28-1 odds? What? Before the season, we had some of the best odds to be the worst team in the league and come up with the number one pick. And if you wanted to come out, you wanted Washington to come out of the NFC, you could have gotten them at like 450-1. We're 28-1. So, needless to say, I said all of that to say this. Ron is exactly right. People are taking notice of this team again. And he talked about, delivering the message to the players that, look, this attention that you're getting, everything that you've done on this 4-game winning streak, it's great. You deserve this. You earned this. But it's not going to help you on Sunday against Seattle. The win at Dallas, the win at Pittsburgh, the win at San Francisco, in Arizona, not going to help you against Seattle on Sunday. Wipe the memory bank clean and let's go after it again. Hungry, like we're 0-0. And that's essentially the message he's been conveying to the team, and that's the perfect message. And I've talked about this, so I don't need to continue to harp on this, about how this team hasn't handled success very well over the years. So I want to continue to see this team grow and handle, and I think we got the right mental makeup in the locker room. It's enough Chase Youngs and Terry McLaurins and Montez Sweats and Daron Paynes of the world who they're not satisfied. Chase Young at his press conference said, what would Kobe do? He would put his head down and not be satisfied and would want more. That's the mindset in the locker room. They're not content. For years, we've had guys that were content with one win. Like Dwayne strikes me as a guy that's content when he wins a game, or remember the report was he was excited about his stats. I saw a video. Look, I don't like to bring up this kind of stuff because this doesn't have any bearing on what you do on the field. But I can tell he just doesn't get it. You know what I mean? I'm watching a video after the game. Somebody posted a video of them on the team flight. And he's showing off his ice. He's showing off his earring, his bling in his ear, and on his watch, and on his wrist, and on his neck, and on his shoes. And I'm like, you don't get it, bruh. You garbage. You stink. Don't nobody care about your damn ice. But he don't get it. He think it's cool to throw for 300 yards, no touchdowns, and lose 31-17. He don't get it. We almost lost the game because of you. You almost threw a back-breaking pick. You don't get it. And that's okay. I don't need him to get it because his ass about to be gone. I just know that the rest of this team gets it. Chase Young gets it, and that's his boy. But he doesn't act like Dwayne. That's his boy, though. But he doesn't act anything like him. That's Terry, that's Terry's boy. But Terry don't act nothing like him. And I told you, everybody matures at a different rate. And I think there is some maturity to Dwayne, but I think he's got some growing up to do. I still don't think he fully gets it. But that's not here nor there. I think we got enough guys in the locker room like Daron Payne, who after the game against San Francisco said, we dogs. And I'm trying to get to the quarterback before Jonathan does, before Payne, Sweat does, and before Young does. I'm trying to get there before all of those dudes. I'm trying to hunt and eat before they do. And we get mad when we give up yards. To hell with touchdowns. We mad when we give up a first down. We got enough of the guys with the right mental makeup. The Jonathan Allens, the Daron Paynes, like I said, the Chase Youngs, the Montez Sweats. We got enough of those guys. The Terry McLaurins in that locker room that I don't think this is going to... Complacency won't be a problem with this team. It's enough of those guys. We didn't used to have enough of these character guys. And we didn't have the right leader to instill in them that this is the way we got to approach it. You're going to have that with Jack Del Rio and with Ron Rivera. When you listen to those defensive guys, they're like, look, Jack's on us constantly. He'll stop a walkthrough to dig in our ass if he sees something wrong. That's what we need. I told you last year, I don't know if you remember this, and this was a long time ago. We're talking about 6 to 8 months, maybe even a year ago. I said, the next guy that comes in here, he's got to be a hard ass. He can't be one of these soft-spoken player-type coaches that wants to be their friends. That was Jay Gruden. Can't have that guy here the next time around. We need a disciplinarian, a guy that's going to come in here and say, this is how shit's going to go down. And either you on board or you off. Either you going to get down or you going to lay down. Which is it going to be? He got here. Trent didn't want to be here. He gone. Oh, you want to cry about some money, Dunny? You gone. I'm not playing with y'all. What y'all trying to do? I'm making examples out of dudes. This is how we're going to run this organization from here on out with this coach-centric approach. And he's got everybody falling in line. I've always said it's much easier to come in and rule with an iron fist and then ease up. Then you can ease up. Then you can show them the lighter side. After they know, hey, coach ain't about the bullshit. You want the smoke with coach, you can get all the smoke you ask for. You can ease up. Show them the lighter side. After they understand, coach will get in your ass. And you got to let them know that first. What do you think? What do you think Joe Judge is doing in New York with the Giants? He told Golden Tate, stay home. Don't even make the trip. He fired the offensive line coach. You ain't doing your job good enough. He gone. What you think Brian Flores is doing in Miami? Oh, you don't want to be here, Minka? All right. Peace. Oh, you don't want to be here? King Drake? Peace. Laramie, you want out? Peace. I want guys that want to be here, and I want you guys to understand what we doing here and how we going to do it. We doing it my way. And Ron, I think the message has gotten across to these players. And guys like Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Terry, they were dying for a guy like this. You go from Urban Meyer and Nick Saban to Jay Gruden? Are you serious right now? They were dying for a guy like this to come in and lead the way. And that's why I'm not so much worried about guys being complacent as I am just a letdown from a standpoint of mental mistakes. Because I've seen mental mistakes the past couple of weeks. Uncharacteristic of this team. You know? Cornelius Luke is not on the line of scrimmage. Negates a first possession pass interference penalty that would have extended the drive. Like little stuff like that. That's a mental mistake. Focus, attention to the details. I think we're going to be just fine, though. I really do. And Ron kind of, piggybacked off of that. As far as Scott Turner is concerned, I liked what he said about the offense on Sunday. He said that the run game was good, which it was. He said, look, we ran for 100 yards before Dwayne's 4 knees at the end of the game, which were for a -12. And that brought the total down to 98. Without that, it's 110 yards between the two backs and Cam Sims' 9-yard jet sweep. So it was a good day for the run game. And he said, look, what we've done a good job of during this 4-game win streak and really the 3 games heading into San Francisco, which I didn't think we did a great job of on Sunday, is just giving ourselves a chance to call more plays. We didn't convert on 3rd downs, and we had some opportunities, and he didn't single anybody out, but you knew what he was talking about. And it wasn't just Dwayne, it was Alex too. We didn't convert in the first half. Alex missed some opportunities to convert. Terry on a comeback wide open, and I showed you the film, and I might upload this to IG of him missing a wide open Steven Sims. And I know some of you, well, Steven would have dropped it anyway. Whatever. He was wide ass open. He's on the field, get him the football. But even so, you want to choose Terry one-on-one? on a comeback. Okay, Terry's open. He won. He skips it to him. He one-hops it to him. You know, so it was some missed opportunities in the game. And he said, you know, we got into some third and longs, and we weren't able to convert. And we had some third and shorts, and we didn't convert those either. And it stopped us. And what we've been able to do the last couple of weeks is we've just been able to consistently convert. We didn't do it against the Steelers. We went third and long the entire night. We got into a little bit of a rhythm there in the second half, but for the most part, it was 3rd and 9, especially in the first half. 3rd and 9, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 14, 3rd and 11. Hell, the first possession of the second half against the Steelers, Cam Sims' wide receiver screen is on a 3rd and 14. So, you know, you got to be able to convert so that we can call more plays. I thought he dialed up some really good plays. And he said, yeah, that's essentially what happened. We didn't convert. We didn't execute. And so we didn't get to call more plays. But I thought the ones that we called were effective. And I have to agree with him. Largely, they were effective. So, I like Scott Turner a lot. I really do. I know some of you are not quite on board yet. It is what it is. And then Alex spoke. And, you know, most of the questions were centered around his injury, his calf. Yo, you good? Is it this? Does this have anything to do with your injury and the surgery and any of that? He's like, nah, they're separate injuries. I'm good. Look, bottom line is, I can't tell you if I'm going to be ready to play. It's not something major, but the only thing that's going to help it is rest. So, you know, me not practicing it's a big deal from the standpoint of I like getting the reps, but I don't have to have them to play on Sunday. Is essentially what he got to. So, and Rivera said the same thing. Alex is one of the few guys that you trust that if he doesn't practice all week, he can still go out and play because he knows what's going on. He's a veteran. He knows how to prepare, take the mental reps, and he understands the game plan, and he can go out and execute. So, this isn't a situation where, you know, you got some coaches in the league, if you don't practice, you don't play. And Rivera is essentially telling you, I don't think Alex has to practice to be able to play. So, I think that Alex is going to play this week. But I like the fact that Dwayne is taking the first team reps just in case he doesn't. He needs all the reps he can get. Alex doesn't need the reps to be able to go out and execute. We saw that against the Giants in the second half. We saw that against, well, I can't say against Detroit, but we saw that against the Giants in the second half. He didn't get any of the reps that week. He stepped in and was admirable in his relief appearance. So he can get mental reps and still come out and make things happen. So I think Alex is going to play this week. I feel confident. He gives us the best chance to win, and it's not close. I think we can all agree on that. So, let's see. I think I got another super chat. And yeah, I got another super chat. Here it is. It is from Steve Sims. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Steve Sims, greatly appreciate you. Steve Sims writes, why would you want Trubisky over Haskins? Great question. I watched Mitchell Trubisky since he's come in the league every snap. There's good Mitchell. There's bad Mitchell. But Mitchell can play. Some of you don't believe it. Mitchell led his team to 10-6 in his rookie season. Mitchell will use his legs to extend plays. I don't know if you watched this past weekend, but Mitchell was pretty damn good. Mitchell threw 3 touchdowns. No interceptions. Mitchell was 21 of 27 for 2 and some change. Mitchell was flawless, essentially, in the game against Houston. I don't know if you recall this, but in a game against Tampa Bay, I think it was last season, or it might have been 2 seasons ago, I think it was. Mitchell Trubisky, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. Mitchell Trubisky is a capable NFL quarterback. And at times, a damn good one. A lot of you like to shit on Mitchell because, yeah, Mitchell makes some mistakes. And I don't think he's being coached all that great in Chicago. And I don't think he's been necessarily set up for success. But he's the best quarterback they got. And I tell you right now, if he would have started from week 1 to week 14, they would be better than 6-7. I don't think you will ever see a game in which Dwayne Haskins is 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Because his mechanics are broken. You cannot fix them. He has nasty habits that at this stage of your career are hard to break. Mitchell Trubisky has none of those things going on. His mechanics aren't flawed. They aren't broken. He's willing to run and extend plays. He can hurt you with his legs. He can throw on the move. It doesn't take him 15 minutes to throw the football on the run to his right. He doesn't have a problem opening up and throwing to his right and can only throw to his left, or is only willing to scramble to his left. There are so many things you can do with Mitchell Trubisky that you can't with Dwayne Haskins because it's a different skill set. But I just know this. If you told me for a 16-game season I had to choose one or the other, and you told me, and I'm not talking about year 4 Mitchell Trubisky, which is where we at with Mitch right now, year 4, versus year 2 Dwayne. Give me year 2 Mitchell Trubisky and year 2 Dwayne Haskins. I'm taking year 2 Mitchell Trubisky. You give me this defense and Dwayne and this defense and Mitchell, I guarantee you the team with Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback wins more games. With the schedule that we played this season, I guarantee you the team quarterbacked by Mitchell Trubisky wins more games than the team quarterbacked by Dwayne Haskins. In this same offense with Scott Turner. I will ride with Mitch over Dwayne. I've seen Mitchell perform at a high level in some key moments. Thanksgiving last year against the Lions. Played a really good game. But the Lions came back and took the lead at the end. And what did Mitch do? Makes a game-winning, gorgeous throw to Miller for the touchdown and the win. This year, week 1, against those same Detroit Lions, Mitch was awful for the first 2 or 3 quarters. But that's why they call him fourth quarter Mitch. Mama named him Mitchell. I'm going to call him Mitchell. He went off in that fourth quarter. They were down big. Mitchell takes them on a touchdown drive. They score. Then, for the life of me, I can't understand. This is why he's probably fired. Their coach decided he wants to kick a 59-yard field goal. They miss. Mitch gets the football back. Takes them right back down the field. Touchdown. Now they're down by just 1 score. And then Matthew Stafford throws an interception. And what does Mitch do? Next play. Touchdown. 3 touchdowns in the span of about 8 minutes. In the fourth quarter, they've taken the lead and they win the game. Dwayne Haskins ain't doing that shit. So if you ask me why I'm taking Mitchell Trubisky, it's because I got more confidence and more faith in Mitchell Trubisky's talents in this league and his ability to overcome adversity than I do Dwayne Haskins. And he's not broken. And he's athletic. And he's willing to use his athleticism. Yeah, he's going to make some mistakes. What quarterback doesn't? You can win with Mitchell Trubisky. I'm telling you, somebody's going to get a good... I think if he gets to the right situation, somebody's going to get a good quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky. Because the Bears decided we don't want him. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. I think if he goes to the right place, like, I feel like if they insert Mitchell Trubisky in Miami, like if they didn't draft Tua, and they inserted him in that offense, with the way they're playing defense, they could win the division in Miami with Mitchell Trubisky. I think they can win in Chicago with him. I just don't like the coaching staff, but you already know that. I don't think it's a good coaching staff. But I rest my case. All right. Anyway, I got another super chat. This one is from my man JP. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, JP. Greatly appreciate you, my man. John Perez writes, getting Ron Rivera was the best thing to happen to this franchise in a long time. The second best thing was drafting Chase Young. Third is the new culture. The best thing to happen to this franchise was getting rid of Bruce Allen. That supersedes everything else. The only thing that could top that is getting rid of Daniel Snyder. But I told you, we can't control that. Getting rid of Bruce Allen was the best thing to happen to this organization. The next best thing was then getting Ron Rivera. You're not wrong. You just forgot one thing. That's it. I thought we hired over our heads. Like, there was no way I thought we were getting a guy like Ron Rivera. Remember, when we were having this discussion last year, I said, man, I don't know who's going to want this job. Like, we don't have anything here that would make somebody want to come here. I was wrong because Ron, part of what attracted Ron to this organization was the young defensive talent, the number 2 overall pick in the draft, in the ability to draft Chase Young, and all the cap space that was available. So there were some things that attracted him here that I wasn't considering. Because normally, coaches don't take jobs because of defensive talent. Unless Ron's a defensive-minded guy. I was about to say, unless you're a defensive-minded guy. Well, duh, Ron's a defensive-minded guy. But normally, people take jobs because of the quarterback that's there. Like, who you got at quarterback? Oh, I can win with him. We didn't have that. And he damn sure didn't take this job because of Dwayne Haskins. So, I'm so glad he chose. And I told you, we didn't choose him. He chose us. Because if he wanted to, he could have been coaching somewhere else. Dallas, New York, Cleveland. He could have been somewhere else if he'd have just waited. But he didn't want to wait. He chose us. I am grateful for that. Every fan should be grateful for that. Because there is no 2020 season, and what we've done this year and what the future looks like and how we feel, which is the most important thing right now, is how we feel about the potential for the future, which we've been hopeless about the future for a while. We feel different about it now. And as you mentioned, the culture to me would be third. You've got the culture third, but that's because you got Chase Young second. I would say the culture changing is third, and then getting Chase Young is fourth. Now, you could argue chicken or the egg. Is part of the reason the culture is changing because of Chase Young? Absolutely. Got to give credit to Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, and the coaching staff for helping cultivate this culture that is really changing. However, Chase Young is a guy that is energetic on the sidelines. They talk about his practice habits. You see it on the field. This guy goes 110 miles an hour every single snap. He's on the sidelines hyping guys up. He's leading the pregame hype up. He's a rookie. But he's not any ordinary rookie. And that's why when I was asked, hindsight, it's 2020. In hindsight, wouldn't you take Tua or Herbert now, knowing what you know about Dwayne Haskins? Because we all thought Haskins was going to light it up this year. So wouldn't you bypass Chase Young and take a quarterback? Hell no. And I say that definitively. Hell no. Give me 11 Chase Youngs. I'm taking Chase Young 10 times out of 10 at number 2 last year. Even with what I know about Justin Herbert right now. Give me Chase Young. I will figure out quarterback. I'll figure it out. Chase Youngs don't grow on trees. Guys may look like them, but they don't have the temperament. They don't have the mindset. They don't have the energy, the relentlessness, the smarts. Chase Young is him and Sweat are smart beyond their years. You watch them on film and you're like, you get that already? It takes dudes 7-8 years to. How long have we been telling Ryan Kerrigan? Hey, Ryan, gotta stay outside for that boot contain, bruh. Don't get sucked in. Every hallway got some crack in it. Don't get trapped in it. And every time Ryan goes chasing the goddamn dog's tail, goes chasing that damn that cheese in the trap. And Dak Prescott comes outside on boot, and there's nobody there. How many times have we seen that? How many times have we seen Kerrigan pass the tight end, or that tight end be engaged with Kerrigan? Kerrigan doesn't get a piece. Kerrigan doesn't hold him up, doesn't disrupt him, just lets him go, and that tight end leaks into the flat and catches the football and runs for 15 yards. How many times have we seen that? That shit doesn't happen to Montez Sweat's side. Because Montez knows what you're trying to do. We got smart football players. So I could see why Chase is number 2 on your list. I would put the culture before him. Say he's the 4th best thing that has happened. But to me, it's Bruce being fired as number 1. Ron deciding to choose us as number 2. The culture now shifting 3, and 4 is drafting Chase Young. But Chase Young is a huge part of why the culture is shifting. So you may be able to slide him above that, and you may have the order actually right there. But anyway, I digress. Thank you for the super chat, JP. Got another super chat here, and it is from William Edwards. Thank you for the super chat, William Edwards. Greatly appreciate you. William writes, Lou, give me a honest win percentage chance at Hawks with Dwayne. It's not terrible because I believe in his defense. With Dwayne, I think you have a 35% chance of winning the game. 35%. It's not like 5%. Like, he's not horrible to where we can't execute on offense. The Seahawks aren't great on defense, but, you know, Dwayne is capable of allowing. Remember when we played the Jets and Dwayne got sacked by Jamal Adams like 16 times? He's capable of getting sacked by Jamal Adams 3 times and fumbling twice. If Dwayne plays, like, you got to take that kind of stuff into consideration. But you still have a shot to win. Like, don't think that just if Dwayne plays, we automatically lose the game. I put it at 35%. Conversely, if Alex plays, you got a 50-50 shot. You got a 50-50 chance of winning the game. Maybe 30. Maybe Dwayne is like 30%. That's probably more apt. You got a like a 1/3 chance of winning the game. Like 33.33333%. Somewhere in that neighborhood. 30 to 33%. And with Alex, it's 50-50. Thank you for the super chat. And William Edwards, thank you for doubling up. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. William Edwards, greatly appreciate you, who writes, also, what do you think of the name Washington Red Bottoms? Nah. What are we, shoes? Red Bottoms? Nah. Absolutely not. Now I'm going to pass on that one, William. Appreciate that one, though. Like, what's the logo for that? Shoes that's up like this so you can see the bottom of them and they red? What is red bottoms? Is there an alternate meaning for red bottoms that I'm not thinking of? Some historical meaning that totally went over my head? Maybe. But no, I can't. I can't get down with red bottoms. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I got no more super chats. We've gone through what was said from everybody, from Alex to Scott Turner to Ron Rivera. Nobody asked about Antonio Gandy Golden today. I thought that was odd. Everyone was so fixated on Alex. Gibson, just a quick report on him. He did work off to the side with athletic trainers. Rivera said that he's making good progress. That doesn't mean a damn thing. Rivera said that Cole Holcomb was making progress early in the season, and we didn't see him till like week 4. Week 5, whatever it was. This is the same. Rivera was the guy that told us that left tackle Jaron Christian was fine. He was just getting a day off. We haven't seen Jaron Christian since like week 6. So when Ron tells, oh yeah, he's doing fine, he looks great. Okay, cool. I don't believe a word that Ron says in that regard. I will only believe it when he's practicing again. And he's not doing that right now. He's off to the side working, which is it's a hell of a step in the right direction. Because remember, Steven Sims wasn't even at practice when he had turf toe. He wasn't at practice for like a month straight. He wasn't even out there. So the fact that he was there is great news. But I still don't think he's going to play this week. I don't think he's going to play this week. But nobody asked about AGG. I was shocked by that. Because everybody was so concerned and excited about him being out there last week, and now nothing. Hopefully they ask about him tomorrow, because if they don't ask, Jack isn't going to volunteer that information, and I want to see him activated this week. I'm all for the Robert Foster, experiment. I'm ready to see what AG, our 4th round pick, can do. So, let's see. I got another super chat. This one is from Derek Williams. Thank you for the super chat, Derek Williams. Greatly appreciate you. My man Derek writes, Lou, I really don't think we have to make major splashes in free agency, but if we could pry Corey Davis and Jayon Brown from Tennessee would do wonders. Thoughts? Love it. I suggested Jayon Brown in one of my hypotheticals about a month ago. You know how I feel about Corey Davis. I think only one of them actually gets out of Tennessee. And you know who I think that is. It's the former, not the latter. And so both of those guys would be a tremendous upgrade for what we're doing right now on our defense. But Jayon Brown injured himself. I think he's going to miss the remainder of the season. So that's interesting, and I don't know if that will factor into his free agency market and how much he will garner in terms of attention and money and things of that nature. As far as Corey Davis is concerned, as each week progresses, his stock gets higher and higher because he makes more and more plays, and he's showing off his ability every single week. And I know the Titans are kicking themselves right now because they failed to pick up his 5th-year option. They didn't see this coming. Shame on them. But I think Corey Davis is willing to let bygones be bygones. I think he wants to be back, and if they extend him a deal that he thinks is a good value, I think he'll be back. If not, I think the Titans will have to resort to slapping the franchise tag on him. How bad do you want Corey Davis back? We're going to find out in Tennessee, because at times he's been better than their number 1 wide receiver, A.J. Brown. Not all the time, but there have been games where you say, which one of these dudes is supposed to be the number 1? Because 84 looks a lot better than 11. But I think the Titans are really happy with A.J. Brown, and they should be. And I think they're realizing, hey, we got a hell of a 1-2 punch here with Corey Davis and A.J. Brown. So I think they're going to bring him back. Jayon Brown would be a massive upgrade to this defense inside at linebacker. He can do a lot of things. He can cover. He can run. He can tackle. I like Jayon Brown a lot. I'd love to see him here in a Washington uniform, but, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Got a super chat here from Fat American. Thank you for the super chat, Fat American. Thank you for tripling up. Greatly appreciate you, Fat American, who writes. Oh, it might be double up. We'll just do both. just in case, writes, "What's up with AGG?" I just talked about that. They didn't ask about him. So there was a press release from the Washington football team that stated every single player was at practice today. Now, they didn't state who practiced, who didn't practice, because remember, they were in the bubble, nasty weather day in the DMV area today. So they were inside. The media is not allowed in the bubble. So the media couldn't tell us, hey, AGG practicing on the side field, or he's out here with the scout team, or he's practicing with the ones this week. We couldn't get any of that information because they're not allowed in the bubble. So we're kind of left in the dark as to what's going on. And nobody asked, and I thought they dropped the ball. Nobody asked about AGG. Maybe they'll correct that tomorrow, and somebody will ask about his progression, and is he getting reps with the ones this week? Is he running with the actual offense and not running with the scout team, or as Ron Rivera likes to call them, the show team? So I think he's going to be up this week. They got 2 more weeks to decide if they want to activate him. They're going to activate him. There's no doubt. It's just whether it's this week or next. I think it's going to be this week. CeeLo, thank you for the super chat. CeeLo, greatly appreciate you, who writes, what about the new running back we picked up? Talked about him already, Lamar Miller. There's nothing new about Lamar Miller, only that the fact that he's here. Lamar Miller is a aging back. I'm going to put Lamar Miller at 31 years old. Once you get to 30 as a running back, generally you're damaged goods at that point. But just to check and see how old Lamar Miller is, I bet you, I'm going to go with 31. 29 years old for Lamar Miller. So hasn't hit 30 yet. Has had some injuries in his career, though. Not the same back that he once was in Miami or even in Houston. He's an insurance policy is what he is. If they have it their way, they'll never have to use him this year. He's just there in case of an emergency, and they have no problems breaking that glass and pulling Lamar Miller out and inserting him if need be. But if Antonio Gibson comes back, put it this way, if nothing happens to the backs that we have now, minus Antonio Gibson, we won't see Lamar Miller. That's my guess. If something happens to either one of those backs, Lamar Miller to the rescue. If Antonio Gibson comes back and we stay with our trio of backs, Gibson, McKissick, and Barber, Lamar Miller won't see the light of day. And that's essentially that. So not much there to that, CeeLo, but it's good to know that if anything, because I was nervous. What if something happens to one of those guys? You gonna put in Javon Leak? Really? Nah, that can't be your solution. And luckily enough, they said, nah, that's not. We got you. So thank you for the super chat, CeeLo. Got another super chat. This one is from Metaphor. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Metaphor. Greatly appreciate you. Metaphor writes, how about we pick up either Bucks tight end O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate to complement Thomas? Howard may be a free agent. If I'm not mistaken, Cameron Brate just signed a deal like 2 years ago to stay in Tampa. And O.J. Howard, they just picked up his 5th-year option. So there's at least 1 more year of O.J. Howard in Tampa. Let's look at both of those guys, though, since you asked. O.J. Howard, and we'll get his O.J. Howard contract. Let's get that going, and we'll be able to tell how many years left. O.J. Howard is a free agent in 2022. So as I mentioned, actually I'm wrong. I was off by a year. I thought he would be a free agent, not this upcoming offseason, but the next one. Well, that's what I said, because this is going to be the 2021 free agency class, and he wouldn't be a free agent here. He'll be a free agent the year after because they picked up his 5th-year option. So I said it right. He'll be a free agent after next season. So 1 more year for him, which was why the trade rumors started to heat up with him, because he wasn't a 1-year rental. He would have been a 2-year guy. And when we were talking about really trading for him, he would have been a 3-year guy. And then let's check out Cameron Brate. I feel like he just signed a contract like literally 2 years ago to stay in Tampa. I could be wrong. Cameron Brate signed a 6-year deal with Tampa, which extends him out to 2024. So, yeah, neither one of those guys are available anytime soon. And I knew Tampa had re-signed Cameron Brate not too long ago. And so he's not a free agent until 2024. So neither one of those guys are just available. You'd have to trade for both, either one of them if you wanted them. I don't see Washington doing that, investing a draft pick in those guys. Now, I will say this. If the draft pick compensation is good, I don't think they would be that because, again, let's say Tampa's like, hey, give us a 3rd-round pick and we'll slide you Cameron Brate. We already know what Cameron Brate is, and he's still young, still good football left in him. You could either say, hey, we could use that 3rd-round pick on a young tight end of our own that we don't know if he's going to be good or not, but we're willing to give it a shot. Or you could just give them your 3rd-round pick and say, hey, this is like our 3rd-round draft pick right here, Cameron Brate. Here you go. We know what we're getting. So there's two schools of thought. I just don't see that happening. So I don't see us getting either one of those guys. Got another super chat here from Matib Khan. Thank you for the super chat, Matib Khan, who writes, hey, Lou, could Sam Darnold potentially be a good trade target this offseason? He could be. He's going to be traded somewhere. For us in particular, I've already laid out why, the pros and cons. The pros, he's talented, NFL arm, good athleticism. If you liked him coming out of college, then you like him now. Nothing's really changed. You acknowledge that he was with a dysfunctional organization and a 2-bit coach, and you say, if you coach this kid up right, there's something here. So those are all the positives. The negatives are his injury history, turnovers, and 3, this is a guy that only has 2 years left on his rookie deal. And one of those years is a team option that would require you to pick up his 5th-year option. So you essentially would have to figure it out on Sam Darnold in 2 years. And you would have to start him right away, and it'd be a new system for Sam Darnold, and you would have to hope he picks it up quickly and showed you everything you're looking for, that you feel confident that in year 5 of that contract you could be ready to extend him. If not, you're sitting in a position like, what do? We just traded a 1st or a 2nd for this guy, and we're not sure yet. So he's going to be a good trade target for someone. I don't know if that someone is us, but he's interesting. I wouldn't be against it. If they did it here, I'd be like, okay, let's go. All right, I'm on board. I'm not looking for it, but I'm not opposed to it, and I'm not against it. But I'm not rooting for it. But if they do it, I'm on board. Like, to give you a reference point, if they went out and signed Cam Newton, I'd be vehemently against it. Totally against it. If they went out and signed Jameis Winston, I'd be totally against that. Just to give you a reference point from which to work. So I wouldn't love it. I don't want them to pursue that. But if they do, I'm on board. Let's do it. Let's see what this guy has. He's got some talent. I don't want any parts of Jameis Winston. I don't want any parts of Cam Newton. So thank you for that super chat. Got another super chat here from Darren Long. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Darren Long. Greatly appreciate you. Darren writes, Allen Robinson needs to be in the conversation as a free agent wide receiver. Definitely. I think he is in the conversation. The only difference with Allen Robinson is his age. And I think we talked about that already. He's not like super old, but I think we determined that Allen Robinson is like 28 or 29. He's somewhere in there. Let's look him up. And we're not talking about how old he is now. We're talking about how old he'll be next year when you sign him. He's 27. So that's not terrible. And you got a year where he didn't play football because he was out with an injury. So there's a little bit more mileage there. The injury history scares you a little bit, but not much. 28 at the start of next year. You'd like to think that there's at least 3 to 4 more really strong years out of Allen Robinson. I'd be on board with that. Absolutely. No doubt. Add him to the list. You're absolutely right. I forgot all about him because Chicago, I just thought, I forgot for whatever reason. I knew he wanted a deal and I thought he got it because he stopped making a big deal about getting a deal. So I just assumed he got it because in today's NFL, when guys want something, they usually don't stop until they get it or they want out. Well, he said, all right, don't worry about it. And I think he said that because he's like, you know what? I probably don't want to be here. So I'm just going to shut up and play football so I can get out of here. I don't know. Are the Bears going to let him out? Because the Bears could slap the franchise tag on him. That's always a possibility. So we'll see. But, yes, you're absolutely right. Darren, I think Allen Robinson needs to be in that conversation along with Will Fuller, and who I'm kind of like distancing myself from a little bit. But, I'm still intrigued. But and Corey Davis, obviously. So there are a lot of good wide receivers. And I think I went down the list already, but I'll go down the list once more because Ron has made it abundantly clear he wants a veteran wide receiver. So, we can sit here and talk about quarterbacks and linebackers, but we're getting a wide receiver this year, I really believe. I don't think, I think more so than any other position, I think we're going to get a veteran wide receiver. So this is the list of receivers in 2021. So this upcoming free agent period. These are notable names that will be unrestricted free agents. A.J. Green, Allen Robinson, T.Y. Hilton, Sammy Watkins, Marvin Jones, Bashad Perriman, Corey Davis, Willie Snead, John Ross, Will Fuller, Demarcus Robinson is interesting from the Chiefs. He's inconsistent, but he's got talent. Curtis Samuel is another guy, ex-Carolina Panther. Don't rule him out. I'm not a fan of his, but Juju Smith-Schuster is another guy that is a 2021 free agent wide receiver. Nelson Aguilar has had a rebirth in Vegas with the Raiders. Let's see if any other receivers tickle my fancy. Chris Godwin for the Buccaneers. Interesting. Kenny Golladay is another name in Detroit. Massive name, actually. So there are a lot of talented pass catchers. Going to have to pay up, though. These guys do not come cheap. There's some other interesting names up here, but those are the ones that catch your eye when you look and you say, and oh, by the way, Cam Sims, our Cam Sims, is also a free agent. But he's a restricted free agent, so we'll have every opportunity to re-sign him if we like. So those are a lot of names, a lot of good names. I didn't even name Larry Fitzgerald because he's not leaving Arizona. Either he's playing for the Cardinals or he's retiring. But there are other names on this list that are interesting as well, like a Keelan Cole, Chris Connolly, Zay Jones. I mean, I wouldn't want Zay Jones. Antonio Brown, A.B. But that, again, a lot of names on that list. One of them is going to be a Washington Redskin or a football team member. One of them is going to be playing for this team next year. They're going to make a run at one of those names I just gave you. And it's going to be one of those guys heading into the prime of their career, like a Kenny Golladay, that they're going to throw stupid money at. So expect that. This it's interesting, though, because I don't expect them to be major players in free agency because the cap is supposed to go down. Now, the TV money and all of that is supposed to send the cap booming in 2022, but cap's going to go down, and you also want to set yourself up to re-sign your own guys. You got Sheriff coming up this year, And all of those one-year deals on guys that you signed in the offseason that have performed for you at a high level, got to re-sign those guys too. What are you going to do with Ronald Darby? Like, a lot of guys that need to be paid on this team. You know, before you know it, it'll be time to do Jonathan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Deron Payne, Sweat, and all of those guys. It'll be time. Chase Roulier, if you're interested, he's got to be coming up here shortly. Might even be this year. So, I said all of that to say this. You're absolutely spot on about Allen Robinson. There are a bunch of names, though, as I just went through the list. So, Derek Williams. Thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Derek Williams, who writes, Lou, how do you feel about Kyle Trask? Talked about this numerous times. Kyle Trask is a pocket passer, not the great athlete that you're looking for in today's NFL. Doesn't mean that he can't be successful. Just means he better be able to maneuver in the pocket. He's very accurate with the football. Probably the most accurate thrower I've seen in college football in this season. You give him an opportunity, he does not miss most times. He doesn't have the greatest arm in the world, but it's good enough to get the football where it needs to go. I said the same thing about Joe Burrow. His arm isn't tremendous, but it's good enough to get the football where it needs to go. And he's just as accurate as the day is long, but he's not a great athlete. He's not really looking to extend plays. He can in college. Can he do it in the NFL? I'm not too sure about that. But there is a place for a guy like Kyle Trask in the NFL. It's just going to take a good fit. I don't know if Washington is a good fit for him or not. So, we'll see. Metaphor. Got a super chat from my man Metaphor. Thank you for tripling up. Metaphor, greatly appreciate you. Metaphor writes, get us a Trubisky Robinson package deal. Oh, you got jokes now, huh? I hear your jokes, okay? I hear your jokes. Honestly speaking, though, if the Bears wanted Dwayne, it would take more than Dwayne. First of all, Mitchell Trubisky is a free agent in the upcoming offseason, so they don't have his rights anymore. So you don't have to package up Trubisky if you're the Bears. He just walks. As for Robinson, he's a free agent as well. They don't own either one of their rights. So technically speaking, you could go out and get both of those guys if you wanted them. They don't want Trubisky. I think they're interested in Robinson, but I think they might want to go a little bit younger than Robinson. Personally, I think he'll be 28 before the season starts next year. So I think they would prefer 25 or 26, like Amari Cooper. When they had a chance to go after him last year, you're talking about a 26-year-old Amari Cooper going into the prime of his career. That's what they're looking for. 25, 26-year-old Amari Cooper going into the prime of his career. That's what they're looking for. So we'll see. Kenny Golladay fits that description to a T. And several others that I mentioned on that list. Got another super chat here from William Edwards. Thank you for tripling up, William. Greatly appreciate you. My man William writes, Will Fuller is a 2. He thrived under a 1, D-Hop. Absolutely. That's what we need. Terry's a 1. Terry's a dog. We're good there. It'd be great if we got another number 1. Cool. What's better than 1-1? 2 1s. I ain't knocking it. But if we went out and got a legit 2, Will Fuller would be that. Again, he scares me because of the PEDs. Because they don't just suspend you 6 games for your first time being popped. The first time you get popped, you get put into the system in the database and they start testing you more often. We don't hear about the first time you get popped. All that does is enter you into the league's drug or substance abuse program. So now they're testing you more frequently than they do other players that haven't tested positive. The second time you get knocked is when you get suspended. So he's a habitual offender right now. That worries me. All right, so now we can get out of here. I thank you guys for joining me. Got no more super chats. I'm going to go ahead and glide to the side. If you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the LouieTeeNetwork for more great content. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And hit that thumbs up. We are at 124 likes. I love that. But it's 378 of you out there right now. So let's get that to $150 if we can. All right. So if you're out there, you haven't hit the like button already, I would really appreciate it if you showed your man Louie T some love. Bless me by hitting that like button. If you haven't already subscribed, I would love it even more if you hit that subscribe button. And we're going to chop it up tomorrow. Tomorrow we will turn our attention to the Seattle Seahawks. A lot of ground to cover there. A lot of matchups. We will wet the palate on the Seahawks. I'll give you my first look at them. We'll talk about injuries going into the game for both teams. And we'll start talking about practice. Practice? Yeah, practice, because did Alex practice? What's the deal with Antonio Gibson? What's going on with AGG? Yeah, you know me. We're going to figure it all out tomorrow on the show. Hopefully we'll have more answers. We'll hear from Jack Del Rio tomorrow, as well as a slew of players. So a lot of content coming your way here on the show. Look forward to turning the page and talking about Seattle Seahawks in week number 15. So with that being said, I got one more super chat. Joseph's book review. Thank you for the super chat. Joseph writes, a first round tight end would be good with Thomas. Again, what is the value at the pick that you're selecting? If Washington makes the postseason and let's say they win a game, they could be drafting 23rd or 24th. Okay, let's say Kyle Pitts, which I don't think is going to happen, but let's just say Kyle Pitts falls into your lap at 23. Do you pass him up? Probably not. Tight end is a need. Now, obviously, unlike the NBA, in the NFL, free agency comes first. I actually like that. People like to go with the draft going first. I like free agency because it tells you what you need in the draft. If they go out and they sign a tight end or two, maybe, tight end isn't something they're, actively looking to go after aggressively in the draft, even if one falls in their lap. But if they don't do anything in free agency at the tight end position, then that would tell you that they feel like this tight end draft class is ripe for the picking, and they have some guys in there that they like, that they feel like even if we don't get one in the first or the second round, there's enough talent in the third or the fourth that we're going to get a guy that we really like. So we'll see what they decide to do. In any event, I appreciate you guys chopping it up with me on this Wednesday night, this cold, chilly Wednesday night. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow as we turn the page to Seattle and start looking forward to the things that it's going to take to get us a win against this really good 9-4 Seattle Seahawks football team. I'm your man, Louie T. This has been Washington Football Nightly live. I will see you next time. Have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30.